the official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB-Racing.
Well, the sun is shining here in Kent and at the Lydd kart circuit, and the mood in the camp is high because we are back. That's right, the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships returns for 2022, and we are kicking things off here at the Lydd kart circuit for round one. You join us just in time for the back end of the second qualifying session for the Extreme 200 series, which you can just see out on track now. My name is Ross McIntyre, and alongside me, making his debut in the commentary booth, is Lewis Ray. Lewis, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, just as I think all the riders are here today. It's sun shines out, bikes are out. We're all glad to be back here in the FAB Championship.
Oh, we are indeed, with a little over a minute and a half left to go in this qualifying session. It's currently Casey O'Gorman, again returning to FAB for the odd round to get some track time. Currently with the fastest time of the session on 41.529. Of course, it's a bit of a weird qualifying format here in FAB-Racing. If you're new to FAB, or if you maybe need a bit of reminding after a long off season, we have 2 qualifying sessions for each of the classes. The times are then combined, and the combined time sets the grid for all 3 races, so it's a bit weird like that. And maybe on that note, maybe you do need a bit of catching up on FAB-Racing. It's been a little while since we've been here, since we've been racing with FAB. So hello and welcome to FAB-Racing, the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship and a part of Dorna's Road to Moto GP, and it is widely considered as a gateway into the Honda British Talent Cup 2. It was awarded the Road to Moto GP accolade back in 2019, when over 60% of the Talent Cup grid were FAB graduates, and that is a percentage that has continued to this day. I mean, again, I'm sure I'll run through the Talent Cup grid in a moment because it's, well, as you're aware, Lewis, it is absolutely full of FAB graduates. First formed back in 2004, FAB has provided an opportunity for young riders to gain experience and insight into motorcycle racing from a young age, and riders, of course, will be looking to be the next big superstar on the world stage. And FAB is providing training and a bit of blueprint to many a young rider who has gone on to become a superstar, such as Scott Redding, Scott Ogden, Danny Kent over in Moto GP, riders in the FIM Superbike World Championship, of course, and BSB and the support classes. This season, one of the riders that I just mentioned, Casey O'Gorman, he's actually been called up to the Red Bull Rookies Cup this season, alongside Eddie O'Shea, another FAB graduate. So there we have, straight away out on track, we've got some successful riders already who've graduated in the past 2 years. He's also been called up to the European Talent Cup with Johnny Garnes, another FAB graduate this season, as well as the checkered flag is out for Extreme 200 qualifying. And as I mentioned, well, the British Talent Cup, it continues to be a grid with a massive intake of FAB-Racing riders. Checkered flag is out. Casey O'Gorman ends the session with the fastest time, but again, the qualifying this second qualifying session does not set the grid. It is a combination of the 2 times that you set across the 2 qualifying sessions, and of course the track, it's evolved over the course of the day. We've had different series, as Casey pulls a little wheelie there coming out of that big right hand sweeper, and well, as we head back round and they'll come into the pits, it's Casey O'Gorman with the fastest time, and well, that's just an example of Casey O'Gorman being Casey O'Gorman.
Yeah, it certainly is. All weekend we've seen that Casey O'Gorman just has great pace on the Extreme 200 class, where it seems to be an open class where you can ride almost every single style of bike that you want, as long as it is within the regulations of a 140cc to 200cc engine 4-stroke, or a 55cc to 110cc 2-stroke engine. It seems that the 4-stroke's more popular in this class, and it's a highly contested class with Sylvan Mountsie in second place, just under 7/10 behind Casey O'Gorman, which, as we know, both of them are ex-British Talent Cup riders, with Sylvan Mountsie still racing in the British Talent Cup. Another rider to mention is down in 5th with Rossi Banham. He is in junior super stock this year. He's a fast rider, as we know, so he's definitely one to watch for the upcoming race.
I mean, if you cast your mind back to last year, for those of you returning to FAB-Racing, you'll remember the friendly rivalry that happened between Rossi Banham and Taylor Lawrence over in the Pit Bike 140 class. And well, that championship went all the way down to the wire, and it's great to have Rossi and Taylor back here today. Rossi will, of course, be back on the pit bikes as well. So that rivalry between the two firm friends continues into 2022. Now it's time for the Mini F1 sidecars and their second qualifying sessions. There is Mick Williams, the man who I believe won every single race last season, unless I'm very much mistaken. So, you know, we've known for a long time, of course, he's the man to beat in Mini F1 sidecars here at FAB-Racing. And yes, indeed, he did sweep the season last year. And I was actually told, I'm not sure if this is true, but he's actually started just to hand championship trophies back to the series organisers because he knows he's just going to walk away with it at the end of the year. But he's, you know, a phenomenally quick driver of that sidecar. He's phenomenally quick. You know, that sidecar is phenomenally quick in itself. It's really a match made in heaven for that number 26 team. And well, as the sidecars head out for their second qualifying session, Lewis, I'm going to offer you an opportunity that was offered to me when I made my debut here in the Fab booth, and I'm going to ask you, you know, who are you? Where'd you come from? What do you do for a living? Why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm from sunny Scotland, which is, as we all know, quite far away from Kent, so it's certainly a long drive down to the circuit this weekend. I race bikes myself, so I understand what these riders are feeling right now. Well, not the sidecar riders, as it's something special to race a sidecar, I believe. But I race myself, so I understand what these young riders are feeling and how they're really developing as a rider as they learn to trust the tyres and develop as a rider. But as we focus on the Mini F1 sidecars right now, you'll notice that the passenger is hanging off the side of the sidecar. Now, unlike normal bike racing where you move your body to lean over the bike, sidecars are slightly different. You move your body to shift the weight of the motorcycle to help it aid in turning with the driver. It's technically two people working with one mind. It's quite a special thing.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, my granddad used to race sidecars back in the day, you know, and even back then, you know, the technology was nowhere near where they are. The bikes weren't as fast, but he just, you know, he always said to me that the people on the sidecar were just the most insane people in motorsport. And, you know, that's no different in the mini sidecars. I mean, we've occasionally had part of the commentary crew here being thrown on the sidecars over the years. We had Tristan a few years back, Gareth last year as well. And Gareth did quite well, but Tristan, bear in mind, he's raced in BSB support cars before, was sat there like a stone. It was quite impressive how visibly scared he was. And you know, this is a mini sidecar as well, so it's not as fast as a big thing, but there's not a lot for you to stand on, so you really do have to essentially cling on to the driver. It looks like we've got 4 sidecars out on track at the moment. I believe there was a 5th out in practice earlier, so maybe a few issues for one of the teams. So hopefully they'll be able to get back out, as that's Mick Williams getting a little bit sideways coming into the final corner at the moment. He's a current best lap time 2 seconds quicker than the Green Street on that 90 machine. And well, as they head round through the back streets, there is the Green Street on that number 90 bike. And heading around the final corner now, coming to the line. Of course, this being the second qualifying session. So we've had most of the qualifyings this morning, which obviously we were not live for on the Motorsport Radio and FAB-Racing YouTube channels. We're on Twitch, we're on Facebook, Twitter, we're on all the social medias, of course. If you are watching along, hello and welcome to the 2022 FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships. Please do like, subscribe, share, and all of that is greatly appreciated. And it is a pleasure to have your support. And of course, you'll be having myself and Lewis broadcasting you live all weekend long from the Motorsport Radio International Broadcast Centre as we get going. And there, Mick Williams even faster that last time, a 48.953, so squeezing into the 48s there for Mick Williams. That is very, very fast. And you know, these mini sidecars, they're not easy things. You know, they seem big, but they're really, really quite small, and they're tough to get going. You know, they're tough to ride on. You can see that the Green Street is obviously on a bit of a cool down lap coming through that opening section. Being a passenger, it's such a physical job, isn't it, Lewis? I mean, you see how close they're having to get to the ground, hanging off the side of the sidecar. It's incredible what they do.
Yeah, it really is, and it's incredible what Mick Williams is doing in particular. He's set a 48.9, and he's just dominating the field. It looks like he's just picked off instantly where he left off from last year, with a gap of 2.4 seconds, which is a huge gap around this short, around 50-second lap.
Yeah, indeed. Look, I believe that was Mark Parker on the 230 pulling into the pits there. The checkered flag hasn't come out yet. We've just got over 2.5 minutes left to go. So looks like maybe some problems there for the number 230 machine. Hopefully they'll all be okay. You can get back out, and again, I'm not entirely sure where our mysterious fifth competitor is, because there was definitely five sidecars out on the track in practice, so we'll just have to see. So it's currently the 26th and 90 of Mick Williams in the green streets, and then Iona Glover and her Newton sidecar rider as well in the number 3, currently making up the back of the field. So perhaps a little bit of a smaller field here in the sidecars. Usually we're here to a few more sidecars, but of course it's the first round of the season. It's very, very cold as well, so I'm going to understand if a few of the drivers and a few of the passengers maybe weren't quite up to heading down to Kent this weekend, but I'm sure they'll be back in the future at the following round. And of course we've got a big old championship this year as well. We've got 8 races, or 8 rounds to look forward to, 3 races each for each of the championships, going to tracks like Growler, going to tracks like Clay Pigeon. We're going all over the country, so it'll be a very exciting year to look forward to here at Fab. Just over a minute and a half to go in qualifying, and still, as we expected, there was Mick Williams absolutely dominating.
Yeah, he still is. I mean, he seems to be the only person that really has improved the lap time into the 40s. Everyone else is stuck in about the 50 seconds, and it's just incredible what they've been doing for the past couple of seasons. Mick Williams dominated all last year, as you said earlier, won all the races, and would certainly want to do that again this year. But of course, Jason Greenstreet would want to put a stop to that in their 90 outfit, as we see on screen now. Incredible looking motorcycle, high quality. They really care about how they present themselves on track.
Oh, they definitely do indeed. And well, of course, after this session we have 2 more sessions as well. We'll have the LS2 Helmets Mini GP70 British Championship qualifying 2, followed by the Moto team qualifying 2. And well, we'll touch on the Moto teams when we get there, because that's a very, very confusing championship if you're new to FAB-Racing. And then we'll be heading into the first races of the weekend, the race ones, which we'll be having this afternoon. As far as we're aware, we're going to be having all the championships bar the 70s and the Moto teams. That may change if we're particularly fast in the racing, but as it stands, we won't be having them. We'll be ending a little bit earlier today, because we've actually got some exciting things to look forward to. We've got Brad Ray and Tom Ward, some BSB riders, actually demoing their Supermoto bikes out on the circuit. So we've got that to look forward to, and we've also there's also going to be some class photos after that as well. So ending a little bit earlier today as the checkered flag comes out. Who else? It's Mick Williams, who takes the faster time in a session and will undoubtedly be on pole. The man who has dominated mini sidecar racing in Britain for what seems like forever at this point. And well, no surprises there. But now we move on to the big one. We move on to the 70s. And well, as we said, the LS2 Helmets LS2 Helmets Mini GP70 British Championship that we're looking forward to into the season. Last year it was a 3-way championship fight into the last round, a very, very controversial final round. Obviously we saw eventual champion Ethan Sparks actually being knocked off his bike in the first race by one of his rivals. He went on to win the championship anyway. Obviously he returns this season to defend his crown. How do you think it's going to fare out there?
I feel like you should have a good season once again, but as we know, there's some huge talent in the series this year. There's Joshua Williams, which is another name to look out for, who was 3rd in the Mini GP UK Championship and also made it to the FIM World Mini GP final down in at Spain. Ruben Bray is also a name to look out for, just a 10-year-old from Southampton. Both are talents to look out for the future and are definitely looking to rival in this qualifying session and in this season.
Well, absolutely. Again, if you're new to Fab or need a bit of a refresher, well, the 70s, this is the Premier Championship in Fab-Racing. This is as good as it gets for junior riders before they are making their way into series such as the British Talent Cup. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see how we fare this season. And the riders heading out for their first qualifying laps in this second qualifying session. And well, as you said, Ethan Sparks returning to defend his title. Again, well, you'd be hard gone by if you don't expect him to be challenging for it once again. But again, we've got a few riders making their way into the championship for the first time, some Fab debutants. We've got some riders making their way up from the Mini GP 50s as well to look forward to. So a few names who are maybe new to the 70s but familiar to the Fab Championship. And of course 50s as well. We've got a few riders we'll need to discuss too when we get to our race one there as well. Henry McCartney, the first rider to set a lap, 42.901. Not actually that far off from the lap record. The lap record, of course, you can't break it in qualifying, but it was a 41.314 set by Bailey Stewart Campbell back in 2019. To be interesting to see. We've all got to wait and see really what happens. I mean, looking at this grid, as you said, you've got your Ethan Sparks, you've got your Ruben Bray, Marco Holt, another one. He was runner-up in the 50s last year. He's going to be a big name to watch out for. So it's going to be, I'm sure, a very, very tight championship once again. And this qualifying session is really setting the precedent of who's going to be where for this weekend.
Yeah, everyone's going to be wanting to be able to perform and get out the gate straight away in round one, so they can have a good feeling going into the rest of the season that can hopefully carry to the end of the season after 9 rounds and hopefully walk away with the title. This championship is highly different from the mini motos that we usually see at FAB-Racing. These have 6 gears, a clutch, much like a conventional motorcycle, and they are all capable of 100 mph, which is really, really fast for these 10 to 15 year olds.
Exactly, 10 years and 6 months is the age that you have to be able to hop onto these bikes. Although if you are 9, you are allowed to race in the championship, as we see one of the riders diving into the pits there with a problem. You are allowed to race in the 70s if you've done 6 full rounds of the Mini GP 50s, the similar category with slightly less power, and you've shown good abilities, the official quote in the regulations, and that is of course up to the discretion of the FAB-Racing organisers. This is a proper GP bike. I mean, look at it. I mean, it feels slightly wrong having this on a kart circuit because they are so fast. I mean, it's slightly weird what we've got anyway. Is that something you should be aware of here at Lydd? Is that the big fast bikes, you look at the pit bikes, you're looking at the Mini GPs, the F1 sidecars, they use the outer circuit here. Lydd's been here since 1993. The outer circuit's so fast. They actually gained it the nickname the Silverstone of karting back in the day due to its high speeds. Coming into that final section, they'll be near top track. These 70s at full pace can do nearly 100 miles an hour, which is just ridiculous. And they won't quite be hitting that, but they can really get a shift on. I don't think the camera angles unfortunately quite do it justice, just how much speed they carry into turn 1. The really, really brave riders, the really, really confident riders are just phenomenally quick on the entry to a very, very tight right-hander, which also then immediately goes into a left. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare. But they are proper GP bikes. They are very, very fast and not for the faint of heart as well. And well, it's going to be interesting to see how the riders are able to fare with them, especially the newer riders into 70s. Yes, you get training on those GP 50s, which we'll be seeing later. They're slightly less power, but essentially the same. As you can see there, Ethan Sparks, your reigning champion on that number 62 bike, that very white 62 bike with a white helmet. Obviously running liveryless this year, but he is your reigning champion from last season after that wasn't a tiebreaker, but it was essentially a 3-way shootout for the champion with a brilliant final round. Obviously himself against Mason Foster, against Filip Sorowiak, and as he comes down into the final corner and onto the main straight, well, let's see what he can do this year. He's currently sitting with the faster time of 42.253, just under a tenth quicker than Ronnie Harris in P2. Ronnie Harris, another returning rider to this championship as well. So good to see him, performing so well and performing up there in P2, under a tenth away from Ethan Sparks as well. So that's great stuff from him.
Yeah, it's only 87 thousandths of a second separating Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris. Ethan Sparks obviously is from Kent himself, so I'm sure he's done quite a few laps around this amazing circuit. Multiple riders in this Mini GP 70 Championship have been tested in Spain over the winter, which may sound crazy to use at home, but track time is essential on these bigger bikes. This is quite serious competitive racing, and that every little chance to get the edge, it's going to help you. And It's more bike times, more experience, and more confidence, which hopefully they can bring into his first round, which is clear to see in person at turn 1 at this track, as you mentioned earlier. Watching in person.
That sparks off. Sparks has a big tumble, the bike into the tyre barriers. And that is not a good place to go off. Smashing his helmet, he's clearly frustrated with himself. Yellow flag will be out with little over a minute left in qualifying. It is important to note that he is currently, no, he's not. McCartney's got even faster. Henry McCartney goes faster at 42.171. Sparks absolutely furious with himself, just too much speed. The bike looks okay from what I can tell, but that was quite a big hit into the tyre barriers. Talking there with the marshals, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to get that going again. He's clearly frustrated himself. Even if he is able to get it going again, his head surely won't be in the right place after that one. So Sparks, that's not what he needs to coming into the championship as the reigning champion. It looks like he will be able to get going again, but will the bike be okay? Will it be all straight? I'm not sure. Oh dear, that's not what Ethan Sparks would have wanted, but he's back on, and I'm sure he'll have his head down now. Important to note, and yeah, look, I believe he'll be diving into the pits. Surely, yes, he does. No, he doesn't. Okay, he's going back around once again. This will be his final lap, so he's not going to have time to complete another lap. So he'd best be on it. Important to note that Ronnie Harris in P3 is the highest returning driver after Sparks from last year. He finished P4 in the championship and came away from the last round at Landau with the third place trophy. Of course, here at FAB, there's 3 races. It's a bit of a weird awarding system. Again, if you're not used to it, the top 3 in each race are awarded medals for their achievements, and then the points you get at the end of the weekend, you get first, second, third in terms of points. They are the ones who are awarded the trophies. The points, it goes 25 down for 1, but not from first to 10th. It's actually first to 15, so it's not quite clear. It goes 25, 20 points for second and 16 points for third place. So it's a bit different from some series. Checkered flag is out here for the 70s, and of course that is very important. Henry McCartney ends with the fast lap, and Harris as well pips Sparks on the line. So Ronnie Harris goes to P2 in the session, but of course it's important to remember, Lewis, that this may not be the grid because it's a combination from your 2 sessions, so it may well be that come the race proper, it's a very different lineup. Yeah, it's the way that FAB Championship works. It's different from any other series that I think I've ever watched personally. It brings something new to the racing though. It gives, for example, Sparks, who made a small mistake there which cost his whole qualifying 2 session, it still gives him a chance to potentially start in that pole position that everyone wants. Henry McCartney, of course, the only rider into the 41s, which is a very, very fast time in one of these machines. The lap record in one of these machines is a 41.3, so they're not that far off. And you mentioned that Ethan Sparks is from Kent. It's also important to know that Henry McCartney is also from Kent in Sevenoaks. And again, the only rider into the 41.955. So McCartney flying here at what is surely a familiar circuit to him as well. And well, that concludes the GP70s and their qualifying session. And well, that is of course the big one. We may not be seeing their race one today. We're not quite sure what the schedule is going to be in terms of them. Chances are we won't be seeing their race ones, but we'll be seeing them tomorrow for certain as we get ready for the Moto team qualifying too. And of course those mini GP70s, they are the premier championship here at FAB. That is the gateway into the British Talent Cup and other series in the world of motorcycle racing. So of course, again, you can see just how hard they were pushing there. Ethan Sparks clearly on the absolute limit, and just a small little mistake, rear of the bike steps out and down he goes. That's how much he pushed. But moving on, it's time for Moto team, and now I am actually just going to take control and tell you what is going on, because Moto team, it's confusing to people who've been watching FAB for years, let alone people who are new to the FAB-Racing Championship. So, Moto team for starters, it's about the bike, not about the rider. So it's called Moto team for a reason. So the names that you will see on the timing screen, that is the name of the person who has entered the bike. not the person who's on the bike. It may well be that the person on the bike is different from the name that is said on the left, so it gets a bit confusing sometimes. So, for example, you've got your Team Kings or Sharp, that's Jay King's bike. He's very often linked that out to winners of competitions that he puts out on his YouTube channel, Pit Bike Sonic, which covers all of the FAB-Racing series. And within Moto Team, there's also two different classes. So you've got the Class 1, the Street Stocks 125, that's the Moto Team standard class, 125cc air or liquid-cooled engine. It's essentially a production motorcycle that you've put onto a racetrack. But then you've also got the second class, which is the open class there, either 55cc engine or a 128cc engine, depending if you have a 2 or 4 stroke or your engine or liquid-cooled. And essentially it's just a little bit different, just a little bit of a shake-up. So there is two different classes to bear in mind. It's very, very confusing, and even to me, and I've been doing this for a few times now, and I don't quite get it. And the championship table only rocks up with one championship, but it's Moto Team and we love it anyway. So they're out for their final qualifying session, the final qualifying session of the day as well. And a lot of bikes out on track, 14 bikes out on the track within the two different classes. And right now it's the 133 of Darren Anderson's bike, which may or may not have Darren Anderson on it with the fastest time.
Yeah, Moto Team brings something new to FAB-Racing that we don't see really in any of our championship that is like this. Moto Team is a cost-effective championship. You can essentially just buy a road bike, put a number on it and go racing. It's almost as simple as that. Certainly the standard class, there's nothing that you need to do to your engine. You can just go racing straight away, and it's a competitive class. I mean, there's less than a second covering the riders, and it's great to watch for the fans. And there's the manufacturers in this class. It's not just a one-make class. You can almost enter in any manufacturer, so it brings big names to sport.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not exactly like rock up with a bike that's cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds exactly, but it is very much a production motorcycle that you could take out onto the road at the end of the race and be on and legally and get around happily, and it's all fine. Jamie King, I know that he's on his bike. Of course, that Team King bike won the championship in that class last year in the standard class. I know that Jay is on the bike in this session. It was someone else on the bike in the first session. He's got a bit of a weird routine for this weekend. It's essentially he's sharing the bike with someone else. That someone else who's I cannot remember for the life of me who it is at the moment, went on the bike in the first qualifying. He's on the bike in the second qualifying session, and whoever is the fastest out of the two of them does race one. So it might be Jay King on the bike in race one, it might not be, who knows. We're probably not going to see race one today anyway, if the schedule's to be believed, because we're going to miss out on the Mini GP 70s and the Moto Team due to Brad Ray's Supermoto demonstration. So who really knows? But it's the first round of the championship. It's always going to be a bit up in the air as to what's going on. There's new faces, there's new bikes, there's new dreams, there's new beliefs as to what's going to happen. And right now, Will Howarth is very much setting the pace, 0.5 of a second up on Darren Anderson's 133 machine on the fastest time provisional pole. Maybe, who knows what they were setting earlier. So, but yeah, good stuff from Darren Anderson so far.
Yeah, it really is, with a 46.699 for being in first position. In practice, I believe there's some issues with Ian Baker's bike, some mechanical issues that we've seen, but it looks to be all sorted now and back at it, trying to go for pole position, as I think all riders in this class have some sort of belief that they can be up front and potentially getting a podium. If nothing comes out of that, they're all happy. It's the first round of the championship, no worries, and there's multiple rounds to go.
Exactly, again, 8 rounds to look forward to in this championship this year. It's a long season. Of course, last year, Lydd had a double round. It was essentially 2 rounds crammed into one weekend. 3 races on Saturday, 3 races on Sunday. The riders must have been very, very tired after that one. This time, it's just a regular championship round. No double weekend, no double points, anything to look forward. It's just out you go, and enjoy yourself. welcome to 2022, everybody. And well, after this one, this is the final qualifying session of the day, and we'll be heading straight into the races. We're getting underway with some mini moto action, and I will mention again, just for the purposes of reminding you at home, that the mini motos use the infield of the circuits. You'll be seeing a marshal wandering out and putting out some cones. It won't be those ones that you can see. It will be those ones you can see there. Wasn't quite sure where that camera angle is, but those two cones you can see on the left, they'll be moved out. The riders will essentially dive down to the right down that section in the mini motos, and they will do a bit of an infield section. And well, it's just a bit tight, a bit more overtaking opportunities as well. Warren Gantario on the 55 machine goes now with the fastest time of 46.405. Wow, that's very, very quick. 2 tenths quicker than the 133 of Darren Anderson. That's very fast.
Yeah, it really is. And one thing that we have to realise is that Darren Anderson is technically the pole position of the Moto Team Open class. As discussed earlier, there's 2 classes inside one race, which can be quite confusing for the watchers at home, but I'm sure that we'll bring you along this weekend and guide you through it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you've got myself and Lewis for company this weekend, bringing you all of the action here from the Lydd car circuit in Kent. And with a little over a minute left to go in the final qualifying session of the day, it's now Warren Gantario sitting on the pole for Moto Team Standard Class. Darren Anderson on the 133 sitting with the fastest time in the Moto Team Open class. Very interesting to see a standard bike up there doing so well. Usually it's the open bikes that kind of do well, but well, you know, new season, new shake-up, new faces, new order of things, really, I suppose. Again, it is a very unique circuit as well. Very long, very, very skinny. You know, it's very, very technical track. You know, lots of high speed, very precise corners that these riders have to absolutely nail. So it's all about rider ability here. And well, we're seeing that at the moment with Gantario sitting with that fastest lap time. Maybe, well, I'm not sure they're quite racing, but you know, riders trying to follow each other, get some practice in for tomorrow in their qualifying session. And you know what, fair enough. If that's what you want to do, that's what we want to do. But it might be costing you a little bit of time. But you know, they're doing quite well. And well, qualifying will be wrapping up shortly. We'll be seeing the final times being set before we head out for the races.
Yeah, with just 15 seconds left in this qualifying session before we go into races, tension is really heating up here in the paddock. Everyone, nerves are starting to begin as it's the first race of the season. Everyone wants to dust off their cobwebs and get to a great start of the season.
Yeah, checkered flag is out. That will be the final times on that point. This is the moment where I go, Lewis, you ride bikes. Lewis, you ride bikes. Well, you know, when you come to the first race season, you know, you're sitting on your bike, you're sitting on the dummy grid, ready to go. You know, what's going through your head? You know, what are you thinking about? What are you preparing yourself for?
Well, like all races throughout the season, you're just focusing on the race and trying to ignore every single thing around you. Just focus on that race and focus on yourself to get that best start that you possibly can. But obviously, with it being the first race of the season, and potentially for some people the first races of their life, nerves will be extremely high, and it's just trying not to crack onto that nerves and just focus on yourself and keep calm.
Well, unfortunately for the race that we have coming up as the Moto Team qualifying comes to an end, it won't be their first races of their life because we've got the pros coming, but it will be for the rookies who we'll be seeing in a little bit later. But of course, as the Moto Team guys heading back, Gantario taking the fastest lap in the standard class, Darren Anderson taking the fastest lap in the open class. Of course, we'll confirm the grids for you when we can. Of course, again, a bit of a weird qualifying format if you're new to the combination of the two qualifyings, but that's just how things roll here. But yeah, as I was saying, the class that we've got coming up now, the Mini Moto AC40 Pro British Championship. These guys, they've done at least a season in the opening class to your FAB-Racing career as a young rider, the AC40 rookies. So ages from 7 to 13, you have had to have done at least a season in the rookies first before you can jump into the pros. So it's you know, these guys, a lot of these guys, they will have done racing before, but this is the first time on a slightly more powerful bike. It's got a slightly larger exhaust restrictor, a bit more power. You can get up to 52 miles an hour on these mini motos, which is really quite fast for some of these young guys. We'll be seeing them head out onto the grid shortly. Well, hopefully anyway. You can see a few of them getting ready in the pit lane and walking up, and you can see that's Oliver Hall there in the background, your AC40 Rookies champion from 2021, and his bike being carried alongside him as we're all getting ready to go. But yeah, well, 2022, first race of the season. What are you expecting?
Well, as FAB-Racing usually brings with the mini moto classes, I'm expecting high intense racing. Everyone's going to be really close, barge and shoulders. It's going to be amazing to watch. And for these young kids, they're going to learn something like they do each time they go on track.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's each race is its own experience, especially for the guys in mini motos. They're super young. And that's you've got to remember that these guys out there, they're so young, but they're so talented, so determined. Get out there and get a good result. And really, it is some of the best racing that you can see all weekend. And it is a pleasure to have it as the first race of the 2022 season here at the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships, live from the Lydd kart circuit in Kent. And as the riders are beginning to get formed up on the dummy grid, we are just all waiting and ready to get going. I believe we do have a slight bit of a break, about 10 minutes I think it is, until they will be heading out onto the grid, or we've got some bikes firing up in the background anyway. So we just got a little bit of time, before we get racing, get going. Got some bikes, warming up on the dummy grid, getting ready, or maybe they're going straight away. Maybe I lied and the schedule lied to me too. Looks like we're going to be going straight away, and strangely enough, for the race ones this weekend anyway, there's no formation lap. It's straight to the grid, and then away you go, lights out. So it really is, at this point, visor down, focus up.
Yeah, it really is. As we can see in the start and the holding area here, we have two types of riders. We have one type of rider that's trying to keep yourself calm and relaxed and a focused mindset. And then the other mindset going onto the grid is to psych yourself up and get yourself excited for the race, just to try block out all the nerves. And it's just two different mindsets to racing, which both bring focus. And yeah, we're expecting some great racing today as we're waiting for the riders to leave the pit lane on what is a glorious day here in Kent. There's a bit of a breeze which may affect these riders on the smaller motorcycles that weigh a lot less, as well as riders which are quite lightweight, with the breeze potentially setting them up slightly in the corners and holding them back in the straight. With slipstream may even come into play in this class.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. I mean, it's nice for the sun to come up for the first race of the season. I mean, it's been kind of in and out all day, but it's been very cold, and it's been very windy as well the last few days. As the riders getting ready, as you said, some of them very relaxed, some of them all ready and raring to go as they start to head out onto the track for the first race of the season. Again, there is no formation lap here. At the first races, it is very much off you go and away. So there is no formation lap for this race. Just to remind you, it is all out, all away we go. And of course, using that infield section as well, there'll be lots of opportunities for tight racing to get going. As you can see, the riders coming around the back end of the circuit will be Harrison Day starting from the pole position. Sam Garner alongside him with Byron Johnson in P3. Lewis Hull is P4, Jensen Bishop P5. Then it's Oliver Hall, your rookies champion from last season, in P6. Chloe Gleason, the first female pole sitter in FAB-Racing history last year, is P7 with Liam Linkvist in P8. Matthew Thomas is P9 with Beth Ashby in P10. Ollie O'Gorman is 11th, Callum Maxwell 12th. Rex Austin is 13th, Dylan Torian alongside him in 14th. Then it's Bradley Curtis 15th, Zach Speed Pennegar in 16th. Then there's George Ackerman and Chloe Saul rounding out the grid. The first race of the year. Lewis, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very excited to be involved in this. As we see all the riders just line up on the grid, just waiting, getting final words in before the visors go down, the lights go out, and we go for the first race of the season of the FAB Championship for the pros.
Indeed you will be. If you are not familiar with how the starts of FABs works, the red lights come on and then the red lights go off, and we are racing. And it's a very short period, and suddenly you'll be seeing the parents clearing off the grid after giving their good luck to their kids out there. Of course, they want them to be safe, they want them to be having fun, but they also want them to be winning and clearing out the way. The final checks and balances of the riders of the bikes before they get going. last words. Who are you supporting here today? Of course, don't be afraid to keep tweeting, keep posting, keep liking, keep commenting. We will be watching along. But as we get ready for the first race of 2022, the final words are said down the walkie-talkie. We are all ready to go here in the commentary booth. They seem to be all ready to go out on the circuit in the AC40 Pro class. Just a short delay before we finally get moving. Your pole sitter, Harrison Day, that number 15 with the pink helmet on the inside, the left-hand side of your screen, along turn with 56 on the front row. And there we can see, as we wait for the lights, clearing the way is the marshal, and they're going for a formation lap? Or are they going? We're going to presume that it's a race, so it looks to me like we're underway for 2022. Harrison Day gets going. I'm not entirely sure if they're racing or not, but we're going to presume it is for the time being, as we get going round for the start and heading through the first turn. Looks like it's all action stations so far. No changes of place, so we are presuming this is a race. But no one seems to be really pushing that hard, dropping for position. So early on, nerves still high as we head round to the back end of the circuit. And we're all waiting to see what's going to happen. The riders coming through, coming down to the back, and now you'll be seeing them on the brakes and peeling into that midfield. A bit of an overtaking move there from Oliver Hall. No, decides against it and holds back for the time being as they get going. But is it a race? We're not entirely sure. It might be a formation lap, Lewis.
Yeah, it seems to be a formation lap. There's still people waiting on the grid for the race.
Yeah, this is a formation lap.
Yeah, it's a formation lap, which we got told that wouldn't be involved in today's schedule, but things change.
Things do change.
So now we have to get ourselves psyched up. Riders have to get yourself back in the mindset of waiting on the grid.
Well, we've got ourselves psyched up in the commentary box now after that, won't they? And now we know for a fact that this is the race start. And we do apologise for that, but this is now after the formation that we'll be getting ready, and we wait for the red lights. A bit of a practice start, if you will, but there is Harrison Day on the inside with the pink helmet looking to the lights. We're waiting last checks and balances for real this time with the parents and their kids, and the marshal goes to the back. So now we are getting ready to go racing, and this is the race start. The flag goes up, flag goes down. We are underway for 2022, and FAB-Racing is a great start from Harrison Day on the inside, and he maintains that lead heading through turn one. Oh, we've got an accident already, a rider off the road. I hope they're okay. And as we head down into turn, coming round into the right-hander a little bit later down the lap at the second chicane section and heading into the back end of the circuit, it seems to be that everyone maintaining that single file formation. Back section of the lap, it is still Harrison Day that leads this race, and as we're going round, seems to be that we've keep going as a red flag has been called. So we've got a red flag out already, so we've got a red flag unfortunately here in race one. So we've got about half a lap under our belts before we have a red flag event, so the riders will be coming to stop back on the grids. There we go, red flag is out. Of course, if you're new to motorsport, that means the race has been stopped due to a safety issue. So red flag, the riders will be coming right bound. So we've had two starts, both of them haven't got very far so far, but we went racing properly at least.
Yeah, I mean, we went racing, we've got a first lap in, but now, since red flag's been called out, riders need to get themselves back in that mindset for then a third start, what we thought, but a second start to them, get yourself back in the mindset, focused again, and hopefully are ready just to battle in that first lap and come out front after the first lap.
Yeah, it looks like the start lights didn't work the last time out either, which is why we had a flag. I think a few riders got caught out by that, a bit of confusion. Of course, if the flag gets dropped, that's the start of the race. It can either be could be the lights go out or the flag, and the flag overrules the lights. So if the flag gets dropped, that is go. Seems like a few riders got a bit confused by the order of things, but at least we did get going underway as we see and wait what's going to happen. just riders sat there on the grid. And again, Lewis, you were saying, they've got to get back into that mindset. That must be really frustrating. They've gone on a formation lap, where we weren't sure whether we were going to go racing or not. They have gone racing, as we're now pointing up to the light. So maybe we're going racing once again, and waiting to see if the lights are going. The red flag is still out for the time being, but well, we're all waiting. The riders are all sitting there ready on the grid, but the red flag still stays out. So I'm waiting to see if the lights are going to come on or not. Still waiting. I can't see any flag being brought out to signal the start of the race either. So of course, if you are tuned in to FAB Racing, hello and welcome. It looks like looks like we've cancelled that one as well. So third time wasn't the charm, but it's a pleasure to have you here anyway, as we try and get the first race of this season underway properly. And of course, do keep sharing the stream. Do keep commenting along. Let us know who you're supporting here in the AC40 Pros in their first race. And well, it's been a bit of a confusing start to this one, Lewis, but hopefully we'll be able to get going soon.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get the first race of the season under the championships belts, and then we can have a successful day of racing. What looks to be sunshine for the rest of the day. The weather forecast shows no rain at the moment, with riders just waiting for the lights. It looks like some riders have turned off their bikes. And this year in this championship, we can expect to see much the same from last year. Close racing, as I said before, elbows out racing, as we call it. And we're going to see the talents of the future develop here throughout the season. These are young kids, and hopefully we're also going to see some lap records broken.
Well, fingers crossed, that is for absolute certain. And well, there is the source of the red flag back on their feet. Great to see that they are walking away from the incident and all okay. And that is really good to see. Of course, we want everyone to have fun. We want to see some good racing, but safety, of course, is the main priority here at FAB Racing. And motorsport, it can be dangerous, as we've just seen there, but it's great to see that they are up and walking away from that incident down at the first turn. And it's great to see them up on their feet. It's the main thing to see. So we are going to have another warm-up lap. So riders will be starting their bikes up. We're going to have another warm-up lap, and then we'll be getting going with the flag or with the lights, whatever it may be. And then it'll be hopefully we'll be racing properly for the fourth or fifth attempt at a start this time, I think.
Yes, something along that lines, but hopefully we'll get racing this time and we'll get a fast, successful, fun race. Riders are going to need this warm-up lap just to heat up their tyres again after sitting on the grid for such a long time. And yeah, it's great to see the riders up on their feet and they're okay, and real testament to how safe racing is.
Well, as we wait to get going on the formation lap again, I mean, Lewis, obviously, I'm sure you've been in this situation before, sat on the grid. What have you done? That's similar to Fab in the past. Of course, you're a similar age to myself. Maybe a bit too old to get going in the pros championship nowadays. But, what have you done with yourself? How have you risen up the ranks like these riders will do eventually?
Personally, myself, by the time I got started, I was a bit too tall for many motos, and I struggled a lot on them. Primarily myself, I race in Scottish Championship, which is a great championship with great weather, usually wet conditions. So yeah, it's racing's fun at the end of the day, and although it's fun, it should also still be taken serious, because at the end of the day, racing can be dangerous. But this is a real testament to how great the medics are here at FAB Racing. And yeah, hopefully we'll get it's fifth restart.
We'll get going eventually, be it with a flag or lights. There is one of the race directors, Rob, just having a chat with a few of the parents. But hopefully we'll be back underway for the start of the new season. And well, we mentioned the new season. We've got 8 rounds to look forward to this year. Obviously here at Lydd, the first round of the championship. Then in May, we're going to Clandow in South Wales, before over to Ella Park, Clay Pigeon, Wilton Mill, back to Clandow for round 6. Then Rowra and Red Lodge to finish off the championship. Bit of a different calendar this year. A few new rounds being added in. A bit of a shake-up to the order of things. But now it looks like we are ready to go once again on another warm-up lap, just to get everything all warmed, but we'll have to see what's going to happen as we get going. All the riders waiting, the parents clearing the grid, and then we'll be going again on a warm-up lap, it would seem. Just a few bikes getting started up for the last time, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And well, as we hopefully get going, it should all be fine and all be dandy to get through. Again, Harrison Day, as we get going on a warm-up lap once again. Harrison Day starting from the pole position, the son of Josh Day, FAB-Racing. He's been racing in the Triple Sport Options Championship. I believe he's a superstar this year, actually. Escapes me what he's doing, but yeah, good to see some generational talent coming through as well, and hopefully we'll be able to go racing this time, Lewis.
Yeah, hopefully we will. But this will definitely benefit the riders who just got slightly caught out and made a bad start last time out in the race. Those riders who got a good start, on the other hand, will have to try and repeat it again, and will be somewhat frustrated over the fact that this red flag occurred.
Oh, absolutely, but now it's time to put that frustration behind you, because, well, it's time to get ready again, get back in that mindset, as you keep saying, and really focus on what's ahead. We've now hopefully actually got the proper race ahead of us, and we can get going for good this time. Coming into that infield section, as you can see, this is what's different for the mini motos. This is what's different about it. They have that tight and twisty infield section to look forward to. It just slows their lap time down a little bit, but just a few more overtaking opportunities, gives the riders a chance to negotiate some more corners as well. Coming onto the grid then, once again, one of the riders off his bike, clearly not happy with how things have worked out, but Harrison Day sat there cool as a cucumber on pole position. The last words of advice to all the parents, go get him, I think was what I just read from one of the dads there to one of the riders, and well, that's exactly what everyone needs to be saying. Here we go, we're going to be going again, the marshal up the front, and looks like we're going to be ready to go racing. It's going to be a light start this time. The red lights come on, it's lights off, and we're underway once again in 2022, and it's an even better start from Harrison Day. This time Byron Johnson gets away well as well in the third place in the grid. He squeezes it up into second. A great start there for Byron Johnson, but it's still Harrison Day that leads this race. But look how close Johnson is to the back of him, squeezing in. And well, as they keep going, Jensen Bishop losing out a little bit there as well. Lewis Hull up to third. Oliver Hall managing to climb his way to fifth as well through that opening section. So great stuff to see there as they get going. But it is still Harrison Day leading this race. But look behind him, there is Johnson right on his tail, and he's not going to get go just yet. It's so early into this race. 9 laps to go for the first race of the 2022 FAB-Racing season.
Yeah, it's a great start there by Harrison Day. He's going to want to try and replicate the pace that he had in qualifying and practice all day yesterday. These AC40 Pro bikes are very fast machines, reaching up to speeds of 52 miles per hour, which at 7 to 13-year-old is pretty fast in these small bikes that are very close to the ground.
Exactly, and it's great to see these guys out there, getting those lap times in and getting going. Harrison Day leading, but Byron Johnson fastest lap of the race at 59.595. That is a very, very quick lap there, and it's only a few seconds off Archer O'Brien's lap record from last year. There you can see the lap times and the riders on the screen. Unfortunately, it was Sam Gardner, the rider that we lost in that first lap incident. A few moves being made already. I believe that might have been Ollie O'Gorman trying to get past Oliver Hall there. Maybe it was Oliver Hall chasing him down. No, it wasn't. Apologies. It was Oliver Hall getting past Jensen Bishop. And now focusing his sights on Lewis Hull. So your rookies champion from last year, Oliver Hall, trying to get a move on, trying to make impressions in the class above already.
Yeah, and as we see, Brian Johnson just trying to keep up with Day. He's just trying to keep with him, keep the same pace that he has. And while we see Harrison Day is just going to be wanting to try to go out front and leave him behind and have a nice clean race, which is obviously not what we want here in the commentary booth. We want to see great racing, but it is great to see these young talents going at it here at Lydd.
Oh, it absolutely is, and it's great to see them, fighting each other as they get going. Well, it's still Day that leads the way from Byron Johnson in P2. And there's a lot of bikes there. All four of them fighting for position as they come round into the very fast final section before they slam on the brakes a little bit earlier than everyone else and sweep into that infield. So you see some moves being made, a bit of a dive up the inside, maybe no, door is firmly slammed, so unable to make the move, unfortunately, but they keep going anyway. They keep doing their absolute best. I believe this is the fight for P14. I believe that's a Zach Hennigar up the front. No, it's not. Apologies. I don't believe it is. But it's Oliver Gorman up the front. Apologies from Chloe Gleason on that 87. As they keep going round, it's now 6 laps to go in the first race of the season. Day still leads from Byron Johnson from Lewis Hull, but Oliver Hull, he's got some real pace on board at the moment. The last lap of 59.807. Maybe something to close in Lewis Hull. So Oliver Hull, definitely a rider to keep your eye on. He was obviously the rookies champion last year and is really looking to make a name for himself, moving up and set an early impression.
Yeah, all riders in this championship are just trying to make a name for themselves and show what their worth is, really. And if you look at to the left of your screens now, you'll be able to see the times of each rider in the previous lap, where we see that Harrison Day has some amazing pace, only rider currently in the 57-second lap time, which is just making them pull away from Brian Johnson, making the gap now 4.2 seconds, with a quite large gap to Lewis Hull in third place, which is 12.5.
Exactly. And that is Hall going up the inside of Hull, and the two riders swap places. A very nice move there from Oliver Hall up into the podium positions. And Matthew Thomas getting past Beth Ashby as well on that last lap, and Hall will now surely streak off into the distance. Look at the gap that he's made already. It was quite clear that Oliver Hall had so much pace on board that bike, and now he'll try and leave Hull behind. But it is still Day and Johnson who are very much the firm two out the front, and the leading pair. There is Day, and he's actually managed to pull away from Byron Johnson a little bit. And where is Byron Johnson? That's a great question. He is a long way back, if that's anything to go by, because Harrison Day, 5.6 seconds is the gap from Harrison Day to Byron Johnson. That is a long way that Harrison Day has managed to pull. So he's riding the race of his life already so far. Brilliant stuff from Harrison Day as Hull, gets past Hull. You can see it now changing on the timing screens. And 4 laps to go as Day from Johnson from Hall, your top 3. Hull from Bishop, from Gleason, from Thomas, from Ashby, from Ollie O'Gorman, and then Liam Linkvist is your rider in 10th place. Ollie O'Gorman losing out a few places there on that last lap, dropping down to P9. Of course, the brother of Casey O'Gorman is trying his absolute best, I'm sure, but maybe things just not quite working out on this opening lap for him. You see riders trying to negotiate that tricky middle sector, kind of coming up to the back end of the lap. It is very, very tight, even for a mini moto. You've really got to negotiate how to get through that part of the racetrack. It's all fun and games until you get to it, really, and especially when you're battling other riders, it can really, play havoc, because there's so much opportunity to go for a dive down the inside, or try and make a move and make a mistake, end up falling out. It's a very, very tricky section of circuit.
Yeah, the mini motos using the infield circuit really brings something different to this class and gives far better overtaking opportunities for them on these smaller machines. But interestingly, Lewis Hull has set his personal best lap time trying to catch up to Oliver Hall with a 59.5, 2 tenths faster than Lewis Hull. Oliver Hall. So we could potentially see Hull closing in as the race goes on.
Well, there we see one of the most classic racing techniques impossible. Follow the faster guy and learn where he's going, because it was clear that Oliver Hall had the pace in the early phase of this race. He's got past Lewis Hull, trying not to get confused between those two names, but now Hull is following, and Hull is now going slightly faster than Oliver Hall. So he's seen where his competitor's going. He's gone, I can go there and go a bit faster, and now he's closing the gap and trying to desperately get back on those podium places. As they come to the line, it's got 2 laps to go, this time by for these two. Harrison Day has extended his gap to 6.5 seconds from Byron Johnson, and but Oliver Hall now will be keeping his eyes, maybe just looking a little bit behind him, just a bit worried about what might be coming in the form of Lewis Hull on that number 41 machine. So he's looking like he's got some pace, and a little bit of traffic there as well for Oliver Hall. He's trying to negotiate his way through. but just can't squeeze through. Oh, again, he's losing lots and lots of time, and this could be a prime opportunity for Lewis Hull to squeeze up the inside. A great move from Lewis Hull to squeeze up the inside, but Oliver Hall isn't done yet. He's going to try and make a dive bomb. No, he doesn't. Lewis Hull retakes the position while they lap George Ackerman, and that is very, very smart racing. He saw the opportunity, he saw the gap, and he grasped it with both hands. And as we come on to the final lap of the race, once again, Lewis Hull onto the podium positions.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing last lap. It's going to be great to watch these two riders duke it out, because it looks like Lewis Hull has the pace for the podium, but Oliver Hall isn't going to let go that easily. He's going to be wanting to go straight up the inside and just try interfere without letting Oliver Hall get into a flow.
Exactly, but we now focus our attention to the rider who looks like he's taking it quite easy out the front, to be honest, because it's been a very, very simple ride. In fact, I think he has, because he's lost to 4 or 5 tenths of a second on that last lap. He just needs to bring it home. Harrison Day, it's been a great performance to open the FAB-Racing season on in 2022. Rounds the final corner. Harrison Day takes his first win of the year in the first round of the year. It's a great win for the number 115 bike as he crosses the line. Byron Johnson, after a great start, comes home in P3, and Oliver Hall's got back through, I believe. No, that's lapped bikes. I apologise, that was Bradley Curtis and Zach Penningal. I got a bit excited there. I mistook the helmet of Bradley Curtis for Oliver Hall. As we look further back, this is further back as well. As we're looking through, there is a few through riders. Oliver Hall did actually get back through in the end, so Oliver Hall did get through on Lewis Hull once again. So it was Hall even who rounded out the final podium place. That's going to be very complicated trying to separate those two. Jensen Bishop comes home P5, then it's Chloe Gleason and Matthew Thomas in P6 and 7 with Beth Ashby in P8. Then it will be Ollie O'Gorman and Rex Austin in P9 and P10. Wow, what a race that we've seen there. There we can see the top 10 riders. Harrison Day brings home the first win of the season in his first race with a lovely little ride there. Byron Johnson manages to bring it home in P2. Oliver Hall manages to squeeze back past Lewis Hull for P3 in the end, with Hull ending up P4. Jensen Bishop is P5 with Chloe Gleason, the first female pole sitter in FAB-Racing history last season, winds up P6 with Matthew Thomas behind her in P7 and Beth Ashby following him in P8. Then it's Ollie O'Gorman in P9 with Rex Austin rounding out the top 10. What a nice little race to kick off the championship there. We saw bit of confusion, controversy and drama opening up, obviously, with that red flag making things a little bit more complicated for the riders. And of course, it's great to see that Sam Gardner was up on his feet and okay. But once we've properly got going underway, a great race there and a lovely ride from Harrison Day. Yeah, it was an extremely good ride by Harrison Day. He played it absolutely perfectly. He just, from the start, he shown his true pace and just got up front by himself so he could just run his own lines. As soon as he was by himself, he just realised that the gap was where he needed it to be and slackened off to stop risking a crash from happening. And then as the race got on, he was happy enough for Sam Gardner just to slightly get closer to him as the race went on. Yeah, exactly, and we can see there are a few riders waving to the camera in there as we get ready now for the AC40 Rookies, the FAB-Racing Rookies Cup, as it's effectively known. This is the entry point into FAB-Racing for young riders, and it's great to see again another packed grid in the Rookies Championship as we get ready, and the riders waiting to head out onto the circuit. Look how many of them there are. I mean, obviously, again, this is as they head out onto the grid. The youngest riders here at FAB, from riders as young as 6, can head out there on their mini moto bike, as long as it's got a 10mm exhaust restriction limited to 45 miles an hour, which is plenty fast enough if you ask me. I'll be a bit scared going that fast on one of these things, to be honest. And I'm an adult at this point. I'm not even 6 years old. The one rule that is in place for the rookies is that riders that finish in the top 6 of the championship must move on to a higher class, such as the pros or the elites. So it effectively keeps that championship moving as they get going. It looks like it will be Taylor Tomlinson on pole from Sebastian Gaslowski. Logan Cousins running up P3 as well, and by the sounds of things, we are going to be having a formation lap in these opening races. So we'll be having a warm-up lap after this for the rookies. And again, you were mentioning some of these riders, this is their first race. Well, this is the category where some of these guys, this is their first race. A lot of these guys, 6-7 years old out there, getting on the bike. Obviously, they'll have been doing work of the winter. They'll have been on the bike before, but not in a racing scenario. So for some of these young riders, they've got to be feeling pretty nervous right now.
Yeah, they really do got to be feeling nervous. But it's a new experience for them. They will be excited. As soon as the lights go out, all the nerves will disappear, and it's going to be a cracking race for them all. Interestingly, with, as you said earlier, the top 6 moving up from the championship, it gives the perfect place for the rookies to be able to develop, as they don't have super fast riders all the time around them, lapping them consistently, which sometimes can bring down your confidence slightly. So it gives them an equal grid where they can learn their trade and hopefully then progress to the Pro Championship.
Well, even though it's only the top 6 that are forced to move on, you still get a lot of riders who do find their way off. Ollie O'Gorman, Zach Penagar, a lot of the Jensen Bishop, a lot of these riders, do just go up to the pros anyway. So the rookies is a constantly evolving grid. You constantly get people coming and joining the championship. So this is full of new faces. There's only a few riders here and there that are, really new to the championship, or are remaining in the championship rather. So most of these are, new young riders ready to, make their way into the FAB-Racing, community, make their way into the FAB-Racing scene, and are ready, to prove themselves as we get ready for the formation lap. And the riders are stepping aside, and the formation lap will be underway. So if you've just tuned in, hello and welcome as we get underway for the formation lap for the first race of the AC40 rookies, with Taylor Tomlinson on the pole position, Sebastian Gaslowski going off alongside with this, Logan Cousins and Annabelle McCarthy on the second row of the grid. And Nicholas Dunwoody is P5 with Preston Baker in P6. Aidan Burton and Archie Hooper make up P7 and 8, with Finley Bardell and Seth Hayward making up the rounding out the top 10. Then it's Taylor Hartley, followed by Josh Perkins, Kai Hawken, Matthew Jennings and Daisy Poland rounding out the grid. So it's great to see a very healthy grid here with 15 riders for this championship. And again, it's the rookies, riders as young as 6 out there, but it's also important to remember there are some older riders on the grid as well. Riders like Annabelle McCarthy, for example, 11 years old. It's seemingly quite old. And there she is, actually. Speak of the devil, she's the one that visibly looks quite a lot taller than everyone else on the bike. It's not actually that effective, being old. It's important to stay small, but your age really isn't that much of a problem in the Rookies Championship. Annabelle's only done one season here in FAB, started off quite late, but it was a great season for her, finishing 4th at Ella Park and Clandau as well, and going off a P4 on the grid today. I'm sure she's looking for a good result.
Yeah, she definitely will be the top female rider on the grid today in this class, so she'll be home for a good result, as will all the riders on the grid though, so she will have to keep her pace up as she's shown in qualifying, and hopefully she'll be there for the podium by the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're getting ready, everybody getting onto the grid and getting themselves set as we just wait for, of course, those lights to come on. The marshals making sure, getting out the way, the parents, the last words said to the kids, the last riders coming round onto the grid. And as we start waiting, a few riders just checking everything's working, checking the throttle. And as we get ready for the first race of the AC40 Rookies season, a few riders are having some problems there. One rider getting literally picked up off the grid, another one having some engine troubles, it would seem, can't get the bike started on the number 93. That's Preston Baker, having troubles there, seemingly unable to get going. And that's a rotten way to start your season with reliability issues. Hopefully they're able to get it moving, because that's really not what you want us to be seeing.
Yeah, that's definitely not the right way you want to be starting your first race of the season. And it looks like they've got it starting now. These 2-stroke engines are just slightly fiddly, but here we are.
Yep, here we go. AC40 Rookies, race 1 of the season for them as we wait for the light. It's lights on, lights off. We're underway for the AC40 Rookies, and it's a great start from Tomlinson and Gaslowski away, holding station, and a couple riders not moving. The number 12 Archie Hooper does not get away from the grid, but they are off into turn 1. And what a shame though for Archie Hooper. Looks like his race is over before it even began. As we're heading in, it's all very clean. A few moves being made here and there. Annabelle McCarthy, I think, trying to gain places after losing them off with a start that wouldn't have been ideal for her. She would have wanted a little bit better than that. But as they get going round the head, down the bottom of the circuit, get moving onto once again, it's all still holding strong for this AC40 Rookies class. And again, this is the first race that many of these young riders have been in. So this one is all about really just building their confidence for the rest of the weekend of the season.
Yeah, this whole weekend, in fact, has just been building their confidence, and it's really just a game of who has got that confidence first, and who is able to push the bikes to its limits and find new lines and find their braking zone, so they can hopefully be consistent and fast throughout the race. As we see a fight going on here between two riders.
Yeah, we see a few riders getting there, but it is Taylor Tomlinson that leads this race from Sebastian Gaslowski, and Nicholas Dunwoody jumping up to third after that opening lap, jumping Logan Cousins and Annabelle McCarthy. So a few riders finding themselves shunted about in the pack a little bit, but overall it's everyone still holding on to the positions that they started in. But yeah, a few really, really strong starters out there. Jensen Anton as well making up a few positions further down the pack. As then we get going though, Taylor Tomlinson leading this way, and that well, starting the season off with a bang. This is exactly what he would have wanted. But again, as I said, for some of these riders, this is all about confidence, just getting used to being in a racing scenario. But some of these riders out the front, they're there to go home with a medal, maybe a trophy at the end of the day as well. They're really here to put on the pressure, and we can see there's some pressure being put on as well. And that's Logan Cousins on Nicholas Dunwoody, fighting for podium positions. So, and that is the number 15 bike that we were seeing having troubles at the side of the circuit, unfortunately for them. Seth Hayward, the bike, that's a real shame. Trying to get it started, but doesn't seem to be getting anywhere, does it? That's a shame for them. It looks like that is the end of his day. And reliability issues seeming to maybe be a problem here for some of the riders and rookies already.
Yeah, they certainly do. All these bikes on the grid right now are using two-stroke engines, which can be known to be somewhat unreliable, and they're a bit fiddly, as I said at the start of the race. But it's a learning curve for some of the parents as well, as it's their kids. Some of them, it's their kids' first ever race. They need to learn how to prepare the bike, how the weekend works, and it's a learning curve for everyone, and one that will be certainly overcome, and hopefully they'll get back out for race 2.
When we say that FAB is it's a family community, we really do mean it. It's not just the young riders out there that having to get involved. The parents have to make massive sacrifices. Of course, they're the engineers, they're the mechanics on the bike, they're the ones setting it up, fixing it, making sure everything works. These guys, they're just the pilots. They just get on and off they go. So for these young riders out there, in the junior championships that we have here at FAB-Racing, it really is a whole family deal. You see mums coming down, dads coming down, brothers, sisters, animals, cousins, grandparents sometimes as well, just coming to watch. It's great to see families coming down to watch this event. And if you're Logan Cousins' family, you're surely thinking that the move's coming soon as he continues to chase down Nicholas Dunwoody a little bit further back as well, as we keep going round turn 1. A very, very crucial chicane here at Lydd. It's very, very fast on the entry, and I went to look out the window to have a look at it, and I've just noticed that almost the entire field of riders that we have here at FAB is watching this rookies race. Again, that just goes to emphasise what I mean when we say we have a real community here at FAB-Racing. I kid you not, there must be at least 50 people stood in the pit lane just watching the rookies race. I mean, that shows how much that these rookies are valued here. Yes, they're the young riders, getting their start in motorcycle racing, but it shows the support that they're getting from the entire paddock. It really is great to see. We've got a rider having a tumble there, getting back on the bike very, very quickly. That was Tyler Hartley on the number 10 machine going off, but he gets back on, looks to be all okay. And there is the 127 meanwhile of Daisy Polden, who's made some great progress flying up the field from well down the field up to P13. So great stuff from Daisy Polden. But yeah, you might be able to see it just as you won't be able to see unfortunately, but I kid you not, that almost the entire paddock is watching this race.
Yeah, it's great to see actually. In this championship, I can guarantee you in the paddock, once these rookies come in, riders from different classes that have previously raced on these motorcycles will come in and tell them how they can improve, what they can do better, and really just help them develop quicker, which is what we love to see. Is this is grassroots racing, really, and it's the stars of the future which we are helping to develop here.
Well, it absolutely is. I mean, Fab is the home of the stars of the future. Again, over 60% of the British Talent Cup grid this year made up of Fab graduates, and this is where many of them made their start in the FAB-Racing Rookies Cup. It is great to see, some riders out there, really giving it everyone, really throwing confidence in the bike. A lot of riders getting faster and faster as the race goes on. They're really starting to find the limits of their grip, really starting to see where they can push. And there is Taylor Tomlinson lapping cars around the outside. He's clearly very, very confident on that number 77 bike. He's managed to pull a 4-second gap on Sebastian Gaslowski now, as he'll be coming onto the penultimate lap, this time by in just a few short moments. And yeah, it's really great to see. Again, they're obviously riders at this stage, especially when you're coming in. There are riders very much at different levels. You've got the guys who've been on the bike for a few years now. They've been practicing for years. They've been in the championship before. Obviously, they'd be very confident. They know what they're doing. But there's riders who maybe they've only been riding for maybe not even a year. They've entered the championship. This is their first race, so it's very much a championship of just trying to learn and improve. There is no pressure on the riders really to get out there and be getting results every single weekend. It's about learning the tracks of the championship, learning the bike, learning how to study and master the racecraft involved in mini moto and bike racing, and really just developing, honing your skills so that when you're ready to move up into the further junior series where okay, you then do need to start performing, that you are ready to do so.
Yes, certainly. I mean, as you can see, going around the outside once again on one of the back markers there. It's just, you can see the confidence that he has in the tyres and his bike, which is somewhat tricky to do in these conditions that we have today, because as I said, the wind has been quite high today, which can just catch you off guard whenever you're going to lean into corners. But Tomlinson just looks to have great pace today, with the gap being 3 seconds.
Yeah, Tomlinson is flying as he enters the final lap of the race. That yellow flag with the black cross in it, that is the final lap flag that indicates the riders that they only have one more tour to complete before the checkered flag drops. And it's Tomlinson from Gaslowski, from Dunwoody, from Cousins. Dunwoody and Cousins did swap places, but then they swapped back once again. Back up into P5 for the time being. But Taylor Tomlinson, you've got to give it to him. He's ridden a great race today.
Yeah, he really has. It's been a great ride all weekend, really, from him. Starting off the weekend strong in Friday practice, as we see him just going through back markers, and as we see going round for the final time for the infield section, which, as I said earlier, Minimotos only use this section, no other class uses it. He's just trying to make his way through back markers, play it safe, get to the end of the finish. Checker flag is out waiting for him. Going around the final turn, Tomlinson wins the first race of 2022 for the AC40 rookies.
Indeed, FAB-Racing Rookies Cup. Race 1 goes the way of Taylor Tomlinson. You can see him jumping on his bike with joy. He is delighted with that result, and it is great to see someone so happy. Of course, even though this is the Rookies Cup, as we were saying, this is all about honing your skills and improving. You can see how much it means to the riders, how much hard work and effort has gone in, when they come across the line in those strong positions, and how much it means. Gaslowski comes home with P2, while Dunwoody rounded out the podium. And no discredit to Gaslowski, and he rode amazingly today, and was very strong away from the grid as well at the start. But Taylor Tomlinson, a fantastic ride from him. He takes the race win with a brilliant ride, followed by Sebastian Gaslowski and Nicholas Dunwoody, and it's Logan Cousins in P4 with Annabelle McCarthy in P5. Preston Baker came home in P6 with Aidan Burleson in P7. Finley Bardell came home in P8. And then Josh Perkins and Daisy Polden rounding up the top 10. Daisy Polden, fantastic stuff from her. That was brilliant. She came from the back of the grid, from 22nd on the grid, I believe it was, that she came from. And she comes home in the top 10. Daisy Polden, that's an amazing ride.
Yeah, it really is. It's going to help her confidence as well for the rest of the weekend, really, knowing that she has that pace and that she started from 22nd position, as she said, all the way to 10th. It's really going to make her think if she can hopefully do better in race 2, coming obviously from 22nd once again, which is going to be a challenge. It will be a challenge, but she'll be hoping for the best and similar pace for the rest of the weekend as we see our next class in the Holden area.
Exactly. Now it's time for the senior mini motos. It's the big boys. It's essentially exactly what you've just seen, but everyone is about 30 and seemingly suicidal, frankly, in the way they ride. It is perhaps some of the most fun racing that you will see all weekend. They do not give anybody anything. It is every rider for themselves out there on track, but at the same time they behave so hostile towards each other on track. There is such brutality in their racing, such aggression, and yet off the track and they're all best mates. It's really, really weird. I mean, obviously Fab is a very tight-knit community, and then in the senior mini motos it's their own little family that they've got there, and they are all super close with each other. And but on the track, they would ride each other into walls if they had the opportunity to, because it's all just a big laugh for them. But the real question that's on our mind is who is going to be king or queen this year. Of course, Mr. Minimoto himself, Bernie Hook, took the championship once again last year in his final season before retiring, and that then leaves a hole. Who is to be his successor? Well, you'd surely put your money on one of the Birkin boys, Matt or Josh or Will Howarth, who finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the championship last season. But who really knows? Of course, the reigning master, the King Supreme, he's not here anymore. So what's going to happen now?
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, really. It's been very tight all weekend in qualifying. It's very strange to see the riders of how aggressive they are with each other on track, as this is just a fun weekend for them. But as soon as they come off track in the paddock, they're best friends, they're laughing about it, they're having a refreshment together in this amazing weather that we have this weekend, which is still nice and sunny for these riders that are head out on track. As we see, there's waiting in the Holden area, waiting to be released on track, as it looks like they're being released now.
So there we go. Onto the track now, the senior mini motos, and this it looks rather silly, it must be said. These frankly quite big people on little bikes, but it is this is some of the best racing that you will witness all weekend, and it will be Matt Birkin starting from the pole position. In fact, the riders who finished positions 2, 3 and 4 in the championship last year will be starting 1, 2 and 3 on the grid this year. Matt from Will Howarth, from Josh Birkin, and as we get going, it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But Matt from the pole, important to note that Matt and Josh Birkin wear borderline identical suits. So try and watch out for that one, because it's very, very easy to get them mixed up. I'll say that to the audience and to Lewis as well. Again, obviously making his debut here. Do watch out, because they are similar when they crash, because one of them will crash. It's frankly inevitable. It's going to be it's quite hard to tell. And that being said, it may be, as I look out onto the grid, that one of them actually might have a new uniform. Of course, we do have a formation lap still to go, so we'll see there. But it might be that my prediction's been lied to. But my prediction that one of them will crash is very much true. I kid you not, last year, if one of them didn't end up on the floor, then they weren't racing, really. It's brilliant stuff to see.
Yeah, I'm very excited to watch this race unfold. It's going to be great. As we can see, Holly Harris waiting on the grid, who has raced in the Talent Cup last season and is racing it this year with the FHO team, which is trying to bring on female riders into the sport and develop them through the ranks.
Well, I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the Birkins. I think one of them's got a different costume and the other one's at the back, further down the grid, because I can definitely see someone in what is a Birkin-ish suit further down the grid. So who frankly knows what's going on with them lot? That's the Birkins for you. They just kind of pop up wherever they go. But as they head away on the formation lap, the grid, as far as we can tell it, is it will be Matt Birkin from the pole position, with Will Howarth in 2nd and Josh Birkin in P3. Craig Ashton's 4th and Holly Harris, as we just mentioned, in P5. Nick Bennett is P6 with Chris Yeoman in P7. Mark Payne is 8th, Keaton Payne is 9th, and Reece Gentry rounds out the top 10. Then it's Ross Michael, David Miat, Alberto Venteo, Callum White, Shannon King, Lamar Morgan, Jerome Richards, Rob Gentry, and Steve Johns rounds out the grid. And, as we get ready to go racing for the senior mini motos, hold on to your hats, because this one is going to get pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And one thing that is crazy is just how tall some of these riders are, these small bikes that are made for children, frankly, but they make it work, they make it fit, and they produce great racing for us at home, which we love to see.
Yeah, it is. I probably wouldn't fit on them knowing my knees. To be honest, I've got no idea how they managed to fit on them and stay in one piece, as that is one of the riders making his way back into the pits already. Again, early drama here for some of the riders out there. Season, not even getting underway for some of them, but it will be Josh Birkin, it looks like, starting from pole position. So it will be Matt starting. Matt's alongside him, so they've both got new suits. So it's Josh in the 2, Matt in the 5. So it's a Birkin front row. So the one at the back is just someone else in the Birkin's old suit. So who really knows what's going to happen? It's all open as we wait for the lights. The marshal gives the hand signal. It's lights on. Lights off, we're underway, and it is a great start from Matt Birkin. Josh Birkin also away well. Try not to get confused between those two. It's Josh that leads the way into turn 1. Matt in tow, Will Howarth in P3. Holly Harris moves up to P4 from the start. A great start from her as Craig Ashall loses out. Nick Bennett up to P6 as well, but a great start from Holly Harris. An even better start though from Josh Birkin into the lead of the race. Yeah, Holly Harris is going to be wanting a great result today. She's going to try and just catch up to these top 3 riders who are in a small group right now. But if they can just battle a little bit, it will slow them down in the lap, and it'll just cause Holly Harris to catch up to them and hopefully get in a battle. But looming behind her is Craig Arshall, and Craig Arshall looks like he's looking up the inside, going in to look what these mini motos use, but he cannot make it work. No, he can't. So Holly Harris maintains that P4 for the time being. Important thing to note with these senior mini motos is that keep your eye on Nick Bennett. He's using a GHR engine in P6, which he's the only rider who's been allowed to do so. He's essentially being a test mule to see if the GHR is a viable engine for this season. So maybe Nick Bennett turns into an absolute rocket ship later in the race. Who knows? Keep your eyes peeled. But it's Josh Birkin that leads from Matt Birkin, and they've changed their suits, which is really annoying, and they've given their suit to someone else, which is even more annoying because you can't quite tell who's who. But it's Josh who leads from Matt, who leads from Will Howard at the moment. And now the question, Tommy, there's 8 laps to go. How long until they crash into each other, frankly, because it is inevitable if you've been watching FAB before, as we've heard some scraping on the ground there, and there you go, one of them's over. I believe that's Matt Birkin who's just gone down, no, actually I think that's Josh that's gone down from the lead of the race. So just sort of saying it, there you go, one of the Birkins goes down. Yeah, as you predicted it was just going to happen eventually. These riders are here for fun, and he's dropped down to what seems to be 6th position, which isn't the end of the race. You can make a position, so still 7 laps to go. But Matt Birkins leads the way with just a 2/10 gap over Will Howarth, and I see a big battle developing here as he just looks to try and find out where he's faster around the circuit, as he looks at the inside just slightly there, Matt Birkins. Well, it's we know that these senior mini motos guys, they push each other's so hard, and apparently according to Josh Birkin, they push themselves so hard and they actually fall off the bike. But it is Matt from Will, and again these two were championship rivals last season, of course. So I say rivals with inverted commas again. For these guys, it's all just a big laugh. They're out there having the absolute time of their lives, and I can guarantee that when Josh went off the bike, he was absolutely laughing to himself under his helmet. And we did look at that, I think that Will Howard just squeezed through around the outside into turn 1, and there is Josh meanwhile chasing down Nick Bennett with that GHR motor. And no, Matt still maintains the lead for the time being, but look how close Will Howard is to the back of him. He's thinking about to move up to the inside, but not quite yet, but he's closing, and he's got the drive out of the right-hander, but again, can't quite make it. Maybe trying to tuck into that slipstream. It's a shame that it's almost a shame for Will Howard that the mini motos are using this twisty middle section, because it's really hard for these senior guys to make an overtake there, just because they're so big. There's no space for them to actually get through, so they can't really do anything around here. It works well for the junior riders, but it really doesn't work for the senior riders whatsoever. And so Will Howard is now just almost a waiting game of trying to push Matt Birkin into a mistake.
Yeah, he definitely is. You can just see he's just trying to add on pressure, get him to make a slight mistake, run a bit wide so you can try and just put the bike up at the inside. A rider definitely to look out for is Holly Harris, who's just 6/10ths off a podium position, which you would absolutely love to see. But she's under attack by Josh Birkins, who on this last lap was around, and he's way up the inside of Holly Harris, sorry about that, as we go into this short straight.
Wow, a wonderful move there by Josh Birkin up the inside, and I almost feel like Holly Harris maybe saw who it was that was coming and maybe just left him a bit of a gap, didn't quite fancy being off the bike this time round. Of course, again, Josh and Matt, some of the hardest racing in the field. I mean, wonderful, wonderful guys, but they will not hesitate to give it a bit of the argy-bargy if they see the opportunity. Holly Harris down into P5. She drops, but again, this is Josh Birkin on the charge. After all, he is one of the fastest riders on the grid. He will be giving it absolutely everything, especially after his tumble early on, and he's actually already got past Craig Ashell as well around that back section, as we're saying, and the fastest lap of the race as well, of 56.101. So Josh Birkin absolutely flying at the moment, and well, he's got about 4.5 seconds to make up in 4 laps if he wants to challenge Howard and his brother Matt for that lead. Let's see if he can do it.
Yeah, it's just going to have to be a waiting game once again. With 4 laps to go, Matt Birkins still leads away with just a small gap over Will Howe. Matt Birkins is going to want to win this just to rub it in his brother's face mainly. It's a brotherly love and brotherly competition. So we just have a little look at Josh Birkins to see how he is going to do in this next lap. Because if he can keep the pace up, he can potentially still catch them by the end of the race. As we wait for him just to come over the line now.
Ooh, it's down.
And it's a 5.1 gap between second place, and he's down on the lap time between first and second, which it's not looking good for Josh Birkins here.
Yeah, it looks like Josh Birkin's charge may be ending with P3. Will Howard there, fastest lap of the race of 56, dead. He's now the one putting the pressure on Matt Birkin. And there we can see Howarth chasing down Matt, trying to desperately get it through as they head round into that tight head section. And there is Josh, not too far back, and trying just to get the bike pivoted in to these tight hairpins. It's of course in a 2-stroke important to keep your revs high through those corners as well. So a lot of rider technique needs to be used through there just to keep your revs high. And that's Will Howarth maybe having a look to the inside as they go around some lap traffic. Decides against it with 2 laps to go. But he was certainly thinking about having a look up the inside, and Matt Birkin now knows that the pressure is on. And oh no, and there goes Birkin, managing to pull a bit of a gap after a brave move on some traffic. Another fastest lap there for Josh Birkin, but it seems to be too little too late, as Matt Birkin extends the gap just a little bit with that clever use of lap traffic. How's Will Howarth going to respond?
Yeah, Will Howarth is going to want this position back, with lap traffic now interfering with him. And Josh Birkins, as you said, to the fast lap, which is an absolute sensational 55.7, which is the only rider in this race in the 55s, which for the next, from race 2, it's going to look absolutely great for Josh Birkins with his pace it can show as we go into the last lap now.
There we go, last lap flag is out and being waved. Not actually waited for the leaders for some reason, but yeah, missed the leaders, but it is out. It is the last lap of the race, and here is Will Howarth chasing down Matt Birkin, having a look to the inside, having a look to the outside, wherever he goes. There is a Birkin in the way. Look how close they are as they come round to the back end of the circuit, round the right-hander. If he can get a good drive out of here, he might be able to try and throw himself round the outside of these right-left sweepers, trying to get the momentum on the bike. Matt Birkin sitting pretty on the racing line. This is one of the last real opportunities he's going to have coming into the hairpin. On the brakes, it will be Matt Birkin that maintains this lead as they head into the final half of this tour, the final tour of the race. and of race 1 of the Senior Mini Motos Championship. Into the final corner does Will Howard. Have a look. He's so close, but I don't think he does. And it will be Matt Birkin crossing the line and taking the checkered flag. The marshal's not sure who's in the lead because he waved it for Josh Birkin, but it is Matt Birkin. He takes the win from Will Howard, with Josh Birkin rounding out the podium after coming back. Will Howard tried his best but could not get through Matt Birkin in those final few laps.
Yeah, this race just highlights how close this class really is. Just 1/10 of a second between first and second place going over the line there. Matt Birkins is absolutely delighted with that result. Will Howard will not be disappointed, but he'll definitely try to get the lead next time and just make himself as wide as possible, using his whole body as a massive riders, as Matt Birkins did this race.
Well, there we have it. Senior Mini Motos done and dusted as the rest of the riders come to the line. Matt Birkin, a great ride there. He takes the win by look at that, 1.5 tenths of a second separating himself from Will Howard as they just crossed the line apart, with Josh Birkin coming back to P3 in the end. Craig Ashall was P4. Holly Harris in the end could not keep hold of that 4th place. She fell back to where she started in P5, with Nick Bennett in P6 on that GHR motor. Chris Yeomans came home in P7, and Bruce Gentry was P8. Ross Michael and Keaton Payne rounding out the top 10 there with a lovely little performance. So it is Matt Birkin who takes the victory, and Will Howard in P2. With Josh Birkin managing to come back. Unfortunately, it was too little too late after that tumble as well, but he did what he could. And now it is time, I believe, for the final Mini Moto race of the day, and it's the Premier Mini Moto class for the juniors. It's the LC40 Elites.
Yeah, the LC40 Elites is quite a small grid this year, with around 4 bikes in it, I believe. As we wait just to see them line up in the holding area here. The good thing about the LC40 Elite class is the fact that riders can compete in both the Pro class and the Elite class with just the exhaust restrictor needing changed. This is such a good thing for FAB-Racing, as it allows riders to get double the track time on the same motorcycle, keeping costs down. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Elite is a class that fluctuates very much, coming back and forwards. There is a Harrison Day having a bit of a dance in the background. He'll be heading out in a minute, and that is some smooth moves right there for Harrison Day, getting himself hyped up, getting himself warmed up, who knows what, but it's clearly a pre-race ritual of some sort. But yeah, it's the Elite, it's a grid that fluctuates round to round. It very much depends just who's there, who's got the Elite bike, who's got that liquid-cooled Mini Moto as they head out. Unfortunately, quite a small grid today, only 4 riders, but I'm sure that they will still be putting on a great display for us. Of course, last year the Elites absolutely dominated by Archie O'Brien, who we'll be seeing in a little while over in the Mini GP 50s. Archie O'Brien, I think he essentially took most, if not all, of the wins that season, which I can double check now. And let's see if Harrison Day can compare. I believe he is going from the pole position. We'll see as they come round again. It's we're gonna have a formation lap, and then the proper race starts as we get going. And it wasn't quite total domination for Arch O'Brien last year, but it also wasn't far from it. He took a sweep in 2 rounds out of the 7, and was the overall victor of the rounds in 4 out of said 7. So it was a pretty dominant display from Arch O'Brien last season. Archie Gibbs, his main rival, could only get within 125 points of him, obviously bearing in mind that final double points round. So it's it really was a case of the Arch O'Brien show last year, as many series were. But let's see who can take his place this year. Who's going to be challenging for the wins today? Who's going to be challenging for the title? 3 out of these 4 riders, 3/4 of this grid is going to be on the podium, Lewis, as we head on to the warm-up lap. So surely the pressure's on. You don't want to be the rider who's not on the podium. Yeah, you really do not want to be the rider who's not on the podium. With just 4 riders on this grid, every single position really counts. They can in this class. We're just getting word that race distance is reduced by 1 lap for this race, which means that we're going to have 1 less lap, and we're waiting for them just to come round on the site on this warm-up lap before we head to the start of the race.
Yeah, shame to say that the race has been reduced by a lap, but obviously maybe some schedule thingies going on there after the red flags earlier, and it's been the elites that have suffered the most, maybe with the smallest grid. Shame to see, but I'm sure that we'll see an action-packed display nonetheless. And of course, if you're watching along, if you're sitting at home thinking this looks cool, maybe I want to get involved, why don't you head over to the FAB-Racing website, whether it be getting your kid involved, getting yourself involved if you are young enough to be on these bikes, or getting involved in some of the senior classes. You can head over to the FAB-Racing website and then find out how to get yourself entered. You can enter at pretty much any point in the season if you so choose, so it's basically up to you if you want to turn up or not. Here we go. Marshall points to the lights, and it's red lights on, red lights off. We're underway for the LC40 Elites. Great start from Harrison Day, but Austin Johnson sweeps around the outside into turn one. Finley Polehill as well gets through, but Sam Gardner takes that P3 back, so it's Austin Johnson leading from Harrison Day with a great start on the right hand side. He takes the lead of the race. Great start from Johnson there.
Yeah, it really was a good start from Johnson. He's going to want just to get up front, keep the pace high, and just try to get away from any battles which will then put them back into third and fourth, as there's just a slight gap between the two riders in third and fourth.
Yeah, indeed, but a great start there for Austin Johnson. Got away essentially perfectly from the line with Harrison Day not really having a response. Sam Gardner swept around Finley Polehill as well on that opening lap. So Finley Polehill did take it back, but then Sam Gardner moves back through after a big tumble earlier on today as well in the Elites race, or in the Pros race, apologies. So great to see him back on the bike and doing well. But it is Austin Johnson leading the way. That lap was a second faster than Harrison Day. Of course, it was the first lap of the race. You do have to take into account that lap times not quite exclusive, not quite perfect, but a second faster than Harrison Day on that opening round. Great stuff from Austin Johnson, but Harrison Day closing in that gap, trying to see what he can do. And further back as well, so you see Finley Polehill trying to close up to Sam Gardner. He knows the move is there. He's thinking about a move to the inside there. We've been a bit brave if he did go for it, decides against it. It is quite early into this race, but he's clearly got some pace on board that bike, clearly ready to make some moves.
He is. One thing you will notice on the mini moto classes is in the straights, riders will tuck in their legs in between their arms. This is just to get a better aerodynamic position and try to get a couple miles per hour, if that, faster down the straight compared to their competitors. Every little edge that you can get over your competitors in mini motos makes a difference.
Exactly. So clearly working there for Finley Polehill as he gets back past Sam Gardner into P3. So it is now Johnson from Day, from Polehill, from Gardner, the order for the time being. But Gardner, I'm sure he's not going to take no for an answer. He's going to be fighting back as best as he can. Johnson, another fastest lap of the race there. He's already a second ahead of Harrison Day. Not quite the domination of Archer O'Brien that we saw last season, where if he wasn't 10 bike lengths ahead by the first turn, you're having serious problems on your hand for Archer O'Brien. But Johnson starting to pull away, starting to bridge the gap of Polehill and Gardner. It's not over just yet. I'm sure that Sam Gardner's going to be trying to fight back, bearing in mind, of course, he did have that big tumble earlier on. Maybe his confidence taking a bit of a knock. Maybe he's carrying a little bit of an injury with him out there, whether it be physical or just a mental block that he's almost created for himself. That does sometimes happen when you have an accident. Obviously, Lewis, I'm sure, with the minute you come off the bike and suddenly you're just not as confident. You can't manage to get yourself to do what you were able to do before.
It takes quite a while just to get your mind around the fact that you had the crash, and the main part that helps you overcome the crash is understanding why it happened and how you can stop it from happening again. Once you understand that, you just slowly build up your speed and your confidence will come with that. It's a great race so far, with Harrison Day just slightly behind Austin Johnson. But what is vital here is that he'll be able to see where he is losing all the time on Austin Johnson, which means in race 2 tomorrow, it could be a different story.
Oh, it very much could be. Again, of course, if it's your first time here at FAB, it's been a while and you need reminding how things work here. We've got almost all of the race ones today. We would normally have all of them, but we've got some demo runs later on that are taking priority over some other races. So we've got your race ones today alongside your qualifying, and then tomorrow we come back for race 2s and race 3s. So 2 races from each of the classes, 20 races to look forward to tomorrow. So of course, make sure that you're here to be watching along at the Lydd kart circuit here in Kent. It looks like it's going to be nice and sunny again, even if the temperature is not the warmest, as it is not today. It's quite warm here in our international commentary box, but it's not warm outside, I can tell you that much. And well, Austin Johnson, another fastest lap of the race, last time by 56.454. He's now 2 seconds ahead of Harrison Day. But well, as you said, Harrison Day, he now knows what he needs to do coming into tomorrow. He now knows where he's going wrong. He now needs to know the changes he needs to make to the bike overnight, and he can come back tomorrow and give Johnson a fresh fight. They cross the line now, 3 laps to go in this Junior LC40 Elite race on those liquid-cooled mini Moto bikes. And you mentioned tucking in, the riders tucking their legs in to kind of get that slipstream. It's weird because that is a technique that is it's almost unique to the junior riders on the mini motors. You would have seen in the seniors, they don't do it because they're too big to do it. They can't actually physically get their legs in far enough to do that. So it's a very unique kind of technique for these riders. And again, it's just one of those things that shows, no bike is the same. When you get older, when you progress up the classes, the bikes are they're so different, and obviously your basic riding technique is the same, but when you're jumping on different things, there's so much stuff that you need to know, that you need to learn, and you need to really be able to adapt very, very quickly if you want to be quick.
Yeah, you certainly do, and the best riders usually do adapt, but some do take longer than others, and most riders will eventually get there if they're given enough time and support that they need. As we see, he comes across the line with 2 laps to go in this race, with Johnson still leading by 3.5 seconds, with his last lap being the fastest lap of the race with a 56.222.
Yeah, great stuff from Austin Johnson. Fastest lap after fastest lap. Sam Gardner, meanwhile, he's unfortunately dropped a little bit away from Finley Polehill, so doubt that the challenge for the podium is now going to be realised. But again, the same thing that we've been saying about Harrison Day. He's going to be looking at that and going, once the race is finished, he's going to be turning around to his mechanic/parents, going, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to improve here. We need to improve here. This is what's happened, and they know exactly what they need to. And of course, as we've said already, you need to remember that Sam's had a big tumble early today. He's had a big off as we go on to the final lap of the race. The final lap flag, that yellow flag with the black cross being displayed to the race leader Austin Johnson. So Sam Gardner, you've got to give it to him for the fact that he's even got on the bike for this race is an impressive feat.
Yeah, it really is, especially just how young these riders are to be able to overcome that crash earlier today. And yeah, it's amazing to see him back out there and trying his best. He's not too far off the pace at the moment, with he's losing just a couple tenths over 3rd place each lap, which isn't that bad. Hopefully tomorrow he'll be able to overcome that and we'll have a different result. As we see Austin Johnson just going in the infield section on this final lap of the race, he'll be absolutely delighted with this result if he can just keep himself on the bike for these final turns. It's been a great race for him as he comes round the final corner with the checker flag out. His first win this season and the first race this season, Austin Johnson.
Yeah, great ride there from Austin Johnson. Harrison Day, your pole sitter, comes home in P2 after a ride where it was strong, but not quite strong enough, but still kudos to him for bringing home in P2. Finley Polehill will come home in P3 with Sam Garnett in P4, but Austin Johnson, again, what a ride. We've kind of had this theme where the leaders have so far just kind of been disappearing off into the distance a little bit all races long, and that's fair enough, but again, a fantastic ride that we've seen there from Austin Johnson. Really didn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah, he just played his own race the whole time. He focused on himself, which is sometimes what you need to do to become faster, as he's absolutely delighted, waving to the camera, enjoying this victory lap. Well, before he comes into the pit lane, he's absolutely delighted, and the confidence that this is going to bring him for tomorrow's race. He's going to want to repeat it tomorrow after feeling this win.
Of course he will, but of course I'm sure that he'll have refreshed and renewed competition from Harrison Day and Sam Gardner as well. That brings a conclusion to our mini moto racing here for today in the FAB-Racing mini moto, mini bike even British Championship. But now it's time to move on to some slightly bigger stuff. It's time to move on to the pit bike 140s. And oh boy, this is where things get interesting. If you're not new to FAB, or you are new even, if you're not used to these pit bike things, these essentially take everything else about FAB and throw it out the window. They can run over curbs that no one else can even look at. They can run over grass. They can be super aggressive with each other. Very powerful, very fast. Lots of fun racing to enjoy.
Yeah, it certainly is, as they head out here on their cycling lap before they head to the grid. There's a look as we have a look at the grid for today's race. A
few riders still trying to head out there. A very big grid as always in the pit bike 140s.
Yeah, Chris Wells leads your way in pole position for this race, with Taylor Lawrence closely behind second place. Lucas Brown, the name to look out for, is in third, and Ross Banham, the rider who's in junior super stock this year in the British Superbike paddock, is certainly one to look out for, starting in fourth position. Reese Peacock, on the other hand, is starting in fifth, with Jamie King in sixth. Cameron Sewell is seventh, with Nathan Riggy in eighth.
There's Darren Anderson, P9, Marco Pandolfo rounds up the top 10. Then it's Adam Redding, Sean Whittaker, Max Perry, Liam Wood and Elliot Crosby rounding out the grid as they come round now, forming up their positions. And of course we do have the warm-up lap to look forward to. Three-time champion Jamie King sitting there on the right-hand side of your screen. In front of him, Taylor Lawrence returning to the championship after winning the title last season. Chris Wells, though, sitting on pole position on the inside. And well, Rossi Banham and Taylor Lawrence, what a joy to have them reunited. Of course, these two firm friends who are very much friendly rivals the entire way through last season. It came down to, I believe it was the penultimate race it ended up coming down to. But it was, a fantastic championship, a fantastic battle between the pair of them. And, in the end, again, 112 points separating them. It seems like a lot, but when you take into account that final race of the championship, it really wasn't. And, it was, great to see, that Taylor and Rossi back on the grid together, and it's awesome stuff. And as we get ready to go up on our formation up, those two, they're definitely the ones to see as they're going round. Taylor and Rossi, they'll be going from 2 and 4 as we get going. Just waiting, the riders, a few riders putting in. Number 17 there, Cameron Sewell, clearly just having a few problems on the sighting laps as we get a few riders come around. I mean, look how big the grid is. There's so many of them. There's countless.
Yeah, there certainly is. This class, of course, being Chinese-made engines inside these pit bikes, and all riders in this class need to be 13-year-old and above with sufficient experience on a motorcycle. So it's not necessarily a class that we see many rookies in, but it's certainly a class where we see great racing.
It is indeed. Let's run through the grid once again. Chris Wells from pole position, Taylor Lawrence reigning champion alongside him, with Lucas Brown and Rossi Banham rounding out the second row of the grid. Then it's Reese Peacock, Jay King, Cameron Sewell, Nathan Riggy, Darren Anderson and Marco Pandolfo, your top 10. Then it's Adam Redding with Sean Whittaker in 12th, Max Perry followed by Liam Wood, Elliot Crosby, Tom Stanford, Zach Torian, Giorgio Scarlata, Matthew Lindley, Sam Smithson, Steve Merrin, Dave Glover, Keaton Payne, Thomas Dodson and Chadley Whiting rounding out the grid. Apologies, but also we've got Ben Ridgewell, Jason Calcabsida and Paul Nozel in P28, the last rider on the grid. Well, we're forming up now. The grid is set. Our eardrums are about to be bleeding because we are very close to the starting grid, and these pit bikes are very, very loud. But again, it is some of the best racing that you will be seeing all weekend. Keep your eyes peeled. This is going to be absolutely electric as we get ready. Marshall looking, getting final preparations, points to the lights. Here we go. Pit bike 140s. Red lights on. Red lights off, we're underway. It's a great start from Taylor Lawrence. From the outside, he sweeps to the lead. Rossi Banham as well gets away well, but it's Taylor Lawrence who leads the way. From Chris Wells, Lucas Brown in P3, followed by Rossi Banham, Jay King in P5 as well. But Taylor Lawrence, reigning champion. Great start from the outside of second on the grid.
Yeah, it really is. He's going to want to try and just get away as soon as he can away from this pack, because any battling, there's a group of about 5 riders straight away behind him that's going to want to pounce and get this lead. It's getting close between Chris Wells and Lucas Brown heading into the twisty section.
Coming into the final section, yeah, Lucas Brown was thinking about a move there. Coming into the final corner again, these guys now solely on the outfield circuit, so it is flat out. But it is, look at them running all over the gravel coming out of the corner. That's how much these guys can push. This is brilliant stuff already. It's been one lap. Taylor Lawrence leads the way from Chris Wells. Lucas Brown thinking about it again to the outside. Rossi Banham's also there. Jay King also holding on to that lead back again. Jay King, 3-time champion. If anyone knows his way around Lydd on a pit bike, it will be that number 76, Reese Peacock as well, also holding on alongside Darren Anderson. He's got a big kind of group for this lead fight, but it is still your reigning champion, Taylor Lawrence, leading the way on that number 10 machine. But we've got 11 laps left to go, and it's not over yet. This is basically a glorified oval circle at this point. This flat out blast down the back, then a very sharp right-hander down the back, and then flat out once again. Look how wide they're running. No one would even think about doing that on any of the mini motors, and these guys, they're just going all the way to the wall. They simply do not care.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to see these riders in this race as Chris Wells sets the fastest lap, but there's nothing between them. Chris Wells have the look of the inside, but he isn't going to make the move on Taylor Lawrence. Absolutely running it out to the curb there. It's amazing to see these riders race. They race so hard, and frankly, it's a massive grid that is absolutely packed with talent.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's some of our best talent right now. We are watching Taylor Lawrence still leading, managing to withstand that pressure. Now look at that Rossi Banham trying to get involved. That first pack trying to break away. Chris Wells having a look to the inside. There is Rossi Banham returning for a round or two this season. And obviously he's moving on to Junior Supersport over with BSB. But as we see there, we have, I believe, a new leader. It's Chris Wells has taken it, but Rossi Banham, not Rossi, Taylor Lawrence even, not taking no for an answer, having a look, but no, now he's under attack from Lucas Brown as a result from losing that momentum, and it will be still Taylor Lawrence in second place as we come round to the back end of the circuit. But that's Chris Wells now leading, but it's not all over yet. Still plenty of action to come here. 9 laps to go, and these guys are going to be changing position every single lap.
Yeah, it's going to be one fast 9 laps to go as
Banham to the outside. Brilliant move from Rossi Banham around the outside of Chris Wells as wow, Taylor Lawrence was having a look at Lucas Brown there, and then I think Chris Wells tried to have a look at Taylor Lawrence, got it all wrong. Rossi Banham around the outside up to P3. Chris Wells massively, look at all the time he's lost just from one little mistake, and that shows how crucial it is that you've got to stay absolutely on it in this pit bike 140 class. And now Taylor, look how close Taylor Lawrence is to the ground. Oh, they're all caught up behind a back marker. Oh, I do not believe it. They've all been caught up behind a back marker. It's a total mess. I'm not sure who's where. That's Reese Peacock, I think. Maybe, I'm not entirely sure as they're coming through. So it's Lucas Brown who still leads from Taylor, from Rossi. No, Reese Peacock's gone through Rossi, and Jay King's gone through Chris Wells as the number 62's come off. That's Chris Wells. So Chris Wells pulls into the pits. So Chris Wells drops out of the race. His day is done. But as drama strikes, it may have been him slowing. It seems that it's, Lucas Brown from Taylor Lawrence from Reese Peacock, and a lot of time being lost for everyone. 7 laps to go here, and chaos and drama in the pit bike 140s as usual.
Yeah, as usual, this class is full of action consistently. There's nothing between them here. As Rossi Banham's just got
to the inside, yeah, he's got through.
Rossi Banham's got through. He's got to try and make up this gap between first and second. Rossi Banham is setting a 43.8 that lap time.
I mean, there's a reason that Rossi Banham's gone to Junior Superstock, isn't it? Like, he's just dynamite on the track. I mean, look at them coming through that first turn. I mean, look how aggressive they are. I mean, they come through so fast. As it's a shame that the camera angle really doesn't do that first turn justice, because it's so fast. These guys are running so much curb as well on the exit of that first chicane. And Rossi Banham moving up into P3, but he's not done yet. Reese Peacock still trying to put that pressure on the vice champion from last year. Taylor Lawrence meanwhile trying to close up, and is closing up to Lucas Brown ahead. So Taylor Lawrence putting that pressure back on. 5 laps to go as we go through. Rossi Banham now firmly setting his sights ahead. He wants to close down. He wants to get higher on that podium. He's maybe even thinking about a win. Who knows? Everything's a possibility in a bit like 140s, but currently it's Brown from Lawrence, from Banham, from Peacock, from King, your top 5.
Yeah, Rossi Bannerman is just amazing to watch. He's taking it to every single curb and using all the track that is possible.
Absolutely. I mean, these guys are just absolutely on the limit. There's some action further down the pack as well. It's not all about the leaders here at Pit Bikes. Everywhere you look on the track, there's fighting for places. There is drama and chaos. And then, coming around this back section, these riders still giving it their absolute all. I mean, there's 28. Well, there was 28. There's 26 now because we lost Chris Wells, and it seems as well there was lost Cal Kavadsta, which is a shame. But there's 26 bikes now out on the circuit, and every single one of them is fighting with each other. That is just how Pit Bikes works. I mean, it's just the most phenomenal championship for racing. It really, really is. It's just so much fun to watch when they're going round. And it's still Brown from Lawrence, from Banham up front. Lawrence closing in on the leader as the time goes. 4 laps to go as it stands, as they're coming through now. A few riders coming through down the back. That's Keaton Payne just crossing the line there. Chadley Whiting as well. And that was your front 2 coming through. Lucas Brown is just under 2/10 ahead of Taylor Lawrence. And Taylor Lawrence, has got 3 laps, and it's all about really trying to put that pressure on as they come around surely into this back section now. And as we get going, and there they are coming through. See that lead bike of Lucas Brown with the number 7. It looks like it has a number 1 on it, but it is a number 7. Taylor Lawrence as well in the number 10, chasing him down with that silver helmet. And great to see there and there. Oh, look at how many... Wow, that's not going to end well, surely. There is a lot of bikes going through there. My goodness me, that cannot end well. Now, your lead is going through. There is Lucas Brown. There is Taylor Lawrence. Penultimate lap here. And frankly, Lewis, it's anybody's guess who's going to win this race.
It is, and that was amazing. That was amazingly done by Lucas Brown, just getting past the back markers straight away, not causing too much trouble. As we see Rossi Bannerman in your shot there, just trying to make up time, get past back markers. It's amazing to see. The hardest thing in this class is to not get flustered whenever you get overtaken with so much riders around you. If you just get flustered a little bit, you try a bit too hard, run a bit wide, and you can end up losing 3 or 4 positions because of it.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go then. Final lap of the race. Someone's gone down in the final corner. Looks like it's Max Perry on the number 42 bike. But here we go. Final lap. Lucas Brown, Taylor Lawrence, and Rossi Banham. Banham seems to have faded from contention. That early pace dropping away. But Lucas Brown and Taylor Lawrence still side by side. There is Max Perry trying to push his bike back to the pit lane. There's Rossi Banham in P3. Of course, the Junior Supersport rider this year, who's put on a magical display for us today. But Brown and Lawrence still neck and neck, I'm absolutely certain. And as they come down now, there goes Rossi Banham down the back stretch. There goes Lawrence, and there goes Brown. Oh, and they're going side by side, and they're going either way of a back marker. Who's going to be first into the final corner? Just it's Lucas Brown. My goodness me, Lucas Brown holds on, but Taylor Lawrence super close, but it's Lucas Brown who takes the victory from Taylor Lawrence and Rossi Banham. Less than 1/10 of a second separating them, 0.88 of a 10th of a second separating them on line. How close was that?
That was an absolutely crazy finish. It couldn't have got any closer if he tried the back marker there just in the middle of them. That would have been a very uncomfortable experience for them, but wow, what a great ride from Lucas Brown and Taylor Lawrence. They were hard, but they were fair.
Oh, absolutely brilliant stuff. I had flashes of that infamous F1 Mick Hackett and Michael Schumacher having to ground the back marker. I had flashes of that going in my mind there. So this one was coming into the final corner. Unbelievable stuff there as Lucas Brown takes the win from Taylor Lawrence by 900ths of a second. Phenomenal stuff there as they coming through. Rossi Banham manages to fight back onto the podium into P3. Reese Peacock comes home in P4, and Jay King was in P5 at the end of the three-time champion, starting off this season with a bang and a top 5. That's exactly what he would have wanted after, well, not a disappointing season, but a season last year that could have definitely gone better for Jamie King. So there we go. It's Brown from Lawrence from Banham, your top 3. And Reese Peacock and Jay King in P4 and P5. Nathan Riggy was 6th. Darren Anderson was 7th. Marco Pandolfo was 8th with Cameron Saul. And Adam Redding rounding out the top 10 places. What a race that we've just seen. I mean, first race of the season. I mean, it's just going to get crazier in the Pit Bike 140s.
Yeah, it is. I think we're up for an absolute amazing season as we were last year with the Pit Bike 140s. As we just have a little look at our holding area here with the Metrica Mini GP 50s out now. These bikes are capable of 80 mile per hour and of 6 gears and the clutch. So it's like a conventional motorcycle to those at home, and not your twist and go style mini motos, and have around 60% more power than the mini motos. Welcome if you've just tuned in, by the way, to the FAB-Racing Championship. We are at Lydd, and we are in the bright sunshine down by Kent by the coast. It's a great day for racing, and we've seen some great racing so far.
Oh, we have indeed. I mean, especially when the weather, when I looked at it on Tuesday, was saying it was going to be absolute downpour all weekend long. It is very nice to have the sun out, and as you said, a great day for racing here at round 1 of the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships here. The opening round, the opening day of the 2022 season. Of course, we're seeing the first races of 2022 here today, and we are getting ready for the more junior of our Mini GP Championships, but still just as important, MK Mini GP 50s. This is the first step for riders onto GP bikes, for these guys. So once you've done yourself decent in the mini motos for the junior riders, as we see the 114 seemingly struggling to get out of the pits, but it's this is the first step for the junior riders, and on their mini GP journey, on their motorbike journey, and this is super important. So for many of them, this will be their first race on this bike. Of course, many of them, as we've said earlier in the broadcast, many of the FAB riders often go on their yearly winter trip to Spain, do a lot of work in Spain over the winter. Especially these guys, getting used to the new bike, getting used to how it all works, and it'll be interesting to see how they all fare coming into this one.
Yeah, it really will be. If you were watching the live stream at the start of today with the metric and with the Mini GP 7A qualifying, these are very similar machines, just slightly less power, and are the stepping stone onto the Premier class here at FAB-Racing, which are the Mini GP 70s, as we wait for the riders just to line up on the grid to start their warm-up lap.
Indeed. Again, as Lewis said, 2-stroke liquid-cooled 50cc engine, and these 50 bikes capable of 80 miles an hour at full swing, which is quite fast if you ask me. It seemed like the Repulsito Marco Holt isn't on his normal bike. He's on the number 9 which is registered on a Bailey Lawrence. And I believe that Bailey Lawrence is riding the 58, which is registered under Marco Holt. So that is Marco Holt sitting there on the number 9 bike with that Minion helmet, that very recognisable Minion helmet at the front. And of course, he was a runner-up vice champion, so to speak, in the 50s last season. He's got to be one of the favourites. We see there a big crowd forming up there, up the top of the balcony at the circuit, and underneath them as well, a lot of riders watching along from the pit lane as we get going on our way for the first round formation lap of the Mini GP 50s Championship. It's Marco Holt, your vice champion from last year, who starts from the pole position. Luke Fitchett starts alongside him with Arch O'Brien, who won 2 championships last year, starting on P3. He'll be definitely one to watch as comes to this race. Bill Harris is P4, Finley Polehill P5, Isaiah Devine is P6, and Frankie Watson is P7. Then it's Harley Baker in P8. And then rounding out the grid, Bailey Lawrence, who in theory should be on Marco Holt's bike, but I haven't seen Marco Holt's bike out there, so I'm really not quite sure what's going on in terms of that. But yeah, there's been a bit of a bike mix-up. No one's really quite sure, but it is, it's in theory Bailey Lawrence. But let's see what happens really as we head out there. Now, there is Bailey Lawrence on the 09. Marco Holt's on the 9. That is very, very confusing. So try and keep track as the grid forms up. But here we go then. Mini GP. You ready, Lewis?
Yeah, I certainly am. We're just waiting for the grid to line up here. Marco Holt has shown great pace all weekend. As we look at the back of the grid for the 114, hardly be able to stand on that Mini GP as the lights wait for the lights go out and away we go. And as we see, Luke Fitcher gets off to a great start with. Sorry about that. While we wait for them to come round to the next section, Marco Holt leads the way in the 9 bike that is still registered as 58 on the timing screens as we head round to start the first lap with the 7 of Luke Fitcher just behind, wanting to keep the pace up, wanting to look up the inside and try and pass Marco Holt.
Indeed, I believe that's another. So we've got the 9, we've got the 7 of we've got another 7. So Luke Fitcher now into the lead. Marco Holt, I'm not sure Arsenal's having a bit of a moment, I think, because it's Luke Fitcher. So it's Marco Holt leading on the 9, Luke Fitcher's on the 7, then it's Archer Bryan in second. So Marco Holt, I think, might be having a transponder issue because he is not showing up on our timing screens. So we'll have to see what happens there. But on the road, it is Marco Holt from Luke Fitcher from Archer Bryan in P8 now. Of course, Archer Bryan, although he's not done that much time on the bike, he was a double champion last year in the AC40 Pros and the LT40 Elites. That was really quite spectacular. In fact, he was so good, he got himself signed up to the MLAV Vision Track Academy. As a result, he's managed to find his way on there alongside other riders in many other series, such as the British Talent Cup, and joins a whole host of FAB riders seemingly on that academy. But I know he's not done much work on the bike. I know they're having a few problems here and there with the bike. I know he spent a lot of time on the 70s bike, which is not participating in that race this weekend. So he's currently just trying to get his best out, but he has just set the fastest lap of the race. But it's still Marco Holt leading on that number 9. Luke Fitcher, though, giving it what for behind him. Very, very close. And these are so fast, these bikes. I mean, these things, they are essentially Grand Prix bikes. They are mini Grand Prix bikes. That's why the name says that. They are so fast. Even these 50s, which aren't turned up to the maximum, they are ridiculously quick through this back section. And there is Luke Fitcher trying to be the ridiculously quick up the inside into the final corner on the brakes. Does he make a squeeze? No, Holt slams the door shut with a very nice defensive maneuver there, but Fitcher's got a lot of pace on board that 7 machine. He's putting the pressure on Marco Holt, who now is appearing on the timing screens. And Luke Fitcher seems to have all the cards close to his chest at the moment.
Yeah, he certainly is. Luke Fitcher is just learning where Marco Holt is weaker than him, so he can try and get past. Marco Holt's at the fastest lap last time round, but there was nothing in it with less than 10,000ths of a second between first and second. As we wait to come round for where he made the opportunity to overtake last time round, will he make another move or will he just stay by? He's looking at it.
Yeah, he's thinking about it, but Marco Holt again a little bit wiser this time to the move. He pulls to the inside of the track. Luke Fitcher again looking to turn 1. He's willing to compromise his line into turn 1 to try and put the pressure on Marco Holt, which, again, I mean, I'm just a lowly commentator, what do I know? But if I'd be following through this to try and get a run into that second chicane. But Luke Fitcher out there, he's the one with the pace at the moment. Fastest lap of the race there at 44.256. Action further back in the pack as well. And again, Luke Fitcher all over Marco Holt's tail, and all while this is happening, Archer Bryan sitting there thinking, go on, crash into each other or just slow each other up or give me an opportunity or something, because he is holding on to this pack. And Luke Fitcher is now going to the outside. Marco Holt's on the inside. Who's later on the brakes? It's again Marco Holt, but Luke Fitcher should get the switchback maneuver. As we look further back as well, we can see Bailey Lawrence and Harley Baker swapping places further down the pack as they this group at the back of the grid fighting each other, trying to get these last positions. Of course, again, quite a small grid here today, unfortunately, in the Mini GP 50s. It's again a grid that greatly fluctuates over the season. It's just, can riders make it? Do they want to make it? Again, the weather forecast for this weekend was pretty miserable, and it seems like the motorsport gods have been smiling on us today with the sun out and the temperatures seemingly rising. And once again, Luke Fitcher to the inside of Marco Holt and getting through Marco Holt this time into the final corner. Great move, Luke Fitcher to the lead. 5 laps to go.
Yeah, what an amazing move there by Luke Fitcher, setting the fastest lap of the race. The only person in this whole race that's been in the 43 seconds by setting a 43.8. Luke Fitcher sat there behind Marco Holt and just looked to see where Marco Holt was weaker and just had all the cards to his chest, and now Marco Holt has no information on where he's going to be faster than Luke Fitcher to try and make this move back.
Well, it really seems that the bike's really come to Luke Fitcher now. Of course, starting on cold tyres, cold brakes. We say it's warm, but it's really not that warm out there. And track temperature is going to be quite low. The bike, it's going to be cold out there. And it seems that Luke Fitcher, lap after lap after lap, again another fastest lap, 8/10 faster that time around, a 1:43.2. That was a second. No, it wasn't a second. It was a 10th faster than Marco Holt. Marco Holt's now seemingly following Luke Fitcher and learning some lines, but now the bike is clearly just coming to Luke Fitcher, and Fitcher is so comfortable going through some lap traffic as well, just diving on the inside, not a care in the world. But Marco Holt pushing very hard. This race isn't quite done yet.
No, it certainly isn't. The lap traffic just doing exactly what they're meant to be doing, sticking to their own line, letting the leaders get past them, as we see Marco Holt just looking up the inside slightly there, taking a far tighter line going into his final corner of the race. On the previous lap, Marco Holt was all the way to the outside of the track, as we've seen in the Pit Bike 140 race, which is something that is quite unusual to see for these mini GP bikes.
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, these guys are they're almost inseparable, frankly. I mean, Marco Holt, now that he's following his rival out on track, he can see, again, as I said earlier, it's textbook racing. Just follow the fast guy and learn the lines. And don't get me wrong, Marco Holt is very much a fast guy. But, it seems that Luke Fitcher's got the pace today. But now that he's following Luke Fitcher, he can see where he's going, see what he needs to do. And now he's really turned the wick up, and will be the penultimate lap this time by as they come to the final corner. And then Marco Holt, well, he really needs to start thinking about getting the move done, because he's going to start running out of time soon enough. Don't get me wrong, Luke Fitcher has been incredible, but Marco Holt, again, vice champion last year. You'd be thinking this year he should be challenging for that championship and coming away with it, and he wants to get his season kicked off in the best way possible.
Yeah, it certainly does. This race does seem to be a game of a cat and mouse, though, with riders, with Luke Fitcher just getting past Marco Holt, just trying to get that back that he's been trying to do. Archie O'Brien here on our screen in 91 bike, who had a successful season last year by winning 2 championships in both the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites, and is known for wearing the iconic Spider-Man helmet.
Exactly, Spider-Man himself. When we say he's successful, that's really not a statement. He dominated both of those championships last season. Again, not a lot of time on this bike over the off-season, so a bit of a steep learning curve. Last lap flag is out, and there are your leaders. Fitcher pulled slightly away from Holt this time by, but again, it's all down into that last corner when it's going to happen, I think, if Holt does go for it. And well, he's got to try, surely. Coming into that final fast section, it's flat out from here to the end of the lap. Here we go. Fitcher trying to maintain. I'm not sure if Holt's close enough, but he's looking a lot smoother, a lot tighter. Look how low Holt gets there. He really gets low to the ground, but he's not going to be close enough. Coming to the final corner, the first Mini GP 50s race of the season. It's going the way of Luke Fitcher. He crosses the line after a very decent ride. Lots of hard work being put in there to get past Marco Holt and take the lead, and then asserts himself with a half a second gap. Marco Holt did finish to come up in second. Archie O'Brien rounds out the podium as well with a very nice and comfortable ride, and what it was essentially just a testing session to get used to the bike on the circuit. There we go. Respect between the two opponents there. Fitcher and Marco Holt sharing a fist bump. Obviously probably a brief exchange of nice racing, mate, there as well, because Marco Holt, while it wasn't his day today, it wasn't his race, he is another rider who's very respectful out on the track. He recognises when he's been beaten. He's very understanding when it's not his day, and he recognises talent. He recognises the pace of other riders, and that is a great virtue of that young man. And again, that's another thing we see here at FAB as well. It's just the sheer respect that you see between races. It's often you get in a lot of championships. A lot of times, young drivers, young riders, they really struggle with defeat. It's something I struggle with. I don't even race, but I just struggle. At work, at school, when I'm upset about not doing so well. And these guys, they have had a tough race. It comes to a second, shares a fist bump. That's great respect. It's great to see.
Yeah, it really is. And although he gave the fist bump, Marco Holt will spend all night replaying this race to think where he could have gone faster, where he can make a move on Luke Fitchett, but it was an absolute masterclass by Luke Fitchett that time out. Just sat there until he knew where he could make the pass and pulled the pin and disappeared. And as we have a little look at the holding area here for our next class, which is the Extreme 200 class. This is the open pit bike. This is an open class where you can enter a pit bike, a standard bike. It's very, very open as long as it's within the regulations of you have to be 17-year-old and have a 4-stroke engine of 148cc to 200, and as we watch riders go out on their sighting laps.
I mean, this is known as the pit bike open class among the FAB community for a reason. It is basically anything goes. I think I've seen 70s bikes going out there before and getting involved. I think I did actually see one of the 70s bikes going out there and giving it a bit of a go, so we'll just have to wait and see. And there is a certain rider getting involved by the name of Casey O'Gorman. Now, if you're not familiar with the name of Casey O'Gorman, and you should be, or get familiar with the name Casey O'Gorman, he is the next big thing in the world of motorcycle racing in Britain. The kid is absolute dynamite, and you'll see why. To put it into perspective, Casey rocked up for the last 2 rounds of this last season, Lewis. I'm not sure if you're aware. He just, rocked up, tried to get some track time in. Signed up for 2 rounds and nearly won the championship. He came home in 2nd place in that year's championship, and in my opinion, only lost the championship because his bike decided to dispose of its oil everywhere in the penultimate race. The guy is dynamite.
Yeah, he really is. He's shown his talent all last season in both the British Talent Cup, winning the championship, and he's now been selected for the Red Bull Rookies Cup, which is going to be great. Sullivan Mountsie, another talent, which we see here. He's also racing the British Talent Cup this year, and he raced it last year. Just next to Casey O'Gorman for the start of this race. A lot of talent in this race as we wait with Rossi Bannerman just getting in position now on his pit bike. This is a real good shot to see the different type of motorcycles that we have here in this class.
Yeah, it is indeed. You can see the Noah Guillory's on his 70 bike there further back as we are waiting for the formation lap. And we'll obviously run through the grid. But yeah, Casey O'Gorman from the inside on that number 7. Here we go. This is the formation up getting underway. Casey O'Gorman from pole position. Sullivan Mountsie P2, David Fennis P3, and Noah Guillory P4, with Rossi Banham and Stephen Brooks on the 3rd row of the grid. Then it's Jack Andrews, your champion from last year in P7. Adam Redding is P8, and it's Dan Merrin, Jan Guillory, and Ben Ridgewell rounding out the grid. And well, as I was saying, Casey O'Gorman, Casey O'Gorman is sorry Lewis, I didn't mean to just accidentally messed up our live time, and I didn't mean to do that. Casey O'Gorman, he's he is an absolutely fantastic talent. I mean, again, put it into perspective, British Talent Cup last year, he won the championship after missing 3 rounds, 6 races from an injury, and then rocks back up and still wins the championship. I mean, that's pretty special to do that.
Yeah, it really is. He had a massive crash at Knockhill at turn 1 at Duffus Step last year, snapping his bike in 2 actually, but he made it back for the end of the season and still managed to win the championship. And last year in the FAB Championship, he won a race after crashing, which just shows his true potential that we have as we wait for the lights to go on. And the lights are on. The lights are off, and away we go. As we see it, Sullivan Mountsie makes a great start, but Casey O'Gorman is squeezing him out. Going into the first turn, Casey O'Gorman is going to try pull the pin straight away here without letting Sullivan Mountsie interrupt his flow.
Oh, it was a great start from Sullivan Mountsie down the outside, but Casey O'Gorman gave it what for. He was not having any of it coming out of turn 1, and he leads this race. Noah Guillory, Sullivan Mountsie even up to P2, Guillory up to P3 as well. But great stuff from Casey O'Gorman. And I don't think this is a track that's entirely suited to his riding style, to be honest. But you're going to see why this kid is so revered among the motorcycle racing world already in just a short moment's time when he absolutely streaks off into the distance. I mean, as you said, Lewis, he's already been called up to the British Talent, not the British Talent Cup, he's been called up to the Red Bull Rookies Moto GP Cup as well. Also got called up to the European Talent Cup. He's the British Talent Cup champion from last year. Again, vice champion of this last year after showing up for 2 rounds and didn't finish one of the races because his bike basically exploded over there. He is absolutely phenomenal. But he's got some stiff competition in Sullivan Mounsey, so we'll have to see what he can do. Again, very different bikes between the two of them. I mean, look at the gap that O'Gorman's pulled already. Unfortunately, his transponder doesn't seem to be working at the moment, but it's quite a visual gap already for Casey O'Gorman. Oh, he's gone down to the final corner. O'Gorman's in the wall. I don't believe it. Casey O'Gorman has come off his bike at the final corner, gets back on and gets going again. Is he coming into the pits? Yeah. O'Gorman looks like he's done. So just after I was talking about how much of a gap he's pulled, O'Gorman in the wall at the final corner, and that could be him finished. Coming into the pits there, I'm not sure what happens, but it's going to be Mounsey that leads this race. Not entirely sure what's happened there, but Casey O'Gorman, disaster for him. Sullivan Mounsey will very happily take that. That looks to be easy. Yeah, Casey O'Gorman, he's it looks like his bike's leaking. I can see out the window his bike's leaking oil, so more oil troubles for Casey O'Gorman, it would seem. Looks like he's done so. It looks like his bike's maybe leaked onto his back wheel. He's gone down. Disaster.
Yeah, it really is. Sullivan Mounsey's going to feel like all his Christmases have came at once. He is leading this race now by a solid 1 second over David Ferns. Casey O'Gorman's going to be absolutely devastated with having mechanical issues. Hopefully they can get sorted for tomorrow so he can show his true pace. Because obviously, as we said earlier, FAB-Racing, he will still be starting on the front row tomorrow if he can get out. Yeah, of course, just to remind you, if you've forgotten or you're new to FAB-Racing, very, very strange qualifying format here. 2 qualifying sessions, your times combined, that determines where you're on the grid for all 3 races. So wherever you qualify, that's where you start for the entire weekend. So don't worry, I'm sure they'll get that bike fixed up and he'll be back out there tomorrow and they'll back out competing. But a big shame there for Casey O'Gorman, more mechanical issues with his pit bike, which we saw last year, and we're seeing it again in 2022, and that is such a shame. But that is motorsports, and unfortunately, sometimes it's a cruel mistress, is it? That's a shame for him. Out of the race he goes. Sullivan Mounsey though leads the way. 8 laps to go. David Ferns is in P2 with Noah Guillory P3. David Ferns currently now has the fastest lap of the race of the riders on track of 42.690. So he's really pushing, really getting a move on. Sullivan Mounsey might be coming under pressure in a little while. Noah Guillory as well. Well, he's now getting under pressure from Rossi Banham from behind as well. Rossi Banham also in this race. He turned up to the circuit last night. It's important to note, he did no practice. Turned up to the circuit last night, essentially did this morning, qualified, and is now out there and competing for podium places. Yeah, it really is. What we just seen on the pit wall, actually looking outside our windows, Casey O'Gorman watching the race himself, lean over the pit wall, and he's now speaking to fellow racers about what's happened. But it just shows once again how tight knit this championship is and how much a family atmosphere it really is. Because although his race,
oh no! I believe that's Noah Guillory that's gone down. Yes, it is.
He's up on his feet.
Yeah, he's up on his feet, so just the back end of the bike stepping out. Too much speed, maybe through the corner, but the bike goes down, shaking the head, but he'll be back on. That's Rossi Banham, then easily up into P3. And again, that's an easy, again, very clever racing from Rossi Banham there. Just shows one of the things you can do. Pressure your opponent into pushing too hard and making a mistake, and down goes Noah Guillory. And he drops down the field. Rossi Banham, he didn't even have to make an overtake, and he gets P3. Yeah, but exactly. Stephen Brooks, though, is on the back of Rossi Banham, and he's going to be wanting to get into that 3rd place position, so we're going to have to watch and see how this race unfolds, as Sullivan Mounsey is still under pressure from David Ferns on 2 different type of motorcycles. Indeed, you've got that GP-style motorcycle, and then you've got that pit bike-style motorcycle behind him, and there's basically a battle of who's what. And Sullivan as well, he's pushing very, very hard. Well, you can see as well, he's much shorter than David Ferns as well, because he's a very different seating position on the bike. You can just tell he's a much smaller rider. So, he's got that, obviously that lightweight advantage. But David Ferns has the fastest lap of the race at the moment. He's also lapping faster than Mounsey as it stands. Still got 5 laps to go as they come through to the back end of the circuit. And well, this is where, in theory, the GP bike should be king. It should be absolutely phenomenal through these fast sections. And then coming through these first tight chicanes, that's where the pit bike should really be in a class of its own. But it seems to be that David Fern is just closing that gap. Yeah, he is, as we have 4 laps to go in this race with David Fern setting the fastest lap of the race. But there's absolutely nothing in between these 2 riders, which is what we want to see in this class. As although they're on 2 different type of motorcycles, they can both compete up front, and it's great to see
for both Sutherland Mountsie and David Ferns. Rossi Bannerman, on the other hand, to set a 43.7 the other time round, so a bit off first and second's pace, but I definitely think this is a result that he's going to want. Stephen Brooks, on the other hand, is just 2 tenths behind Rossi Bannerman, which is going to put the pressure on Rossi Bannerman, and Rossi Bannerman's going to hope he does not crack underneath this pressure. It's going to be a real test as we see Sutherland Mountsie trying to get past the back marker. Will this help David Fern? Will it slow down Sutherland Mountsie? He's going around the outside, David Fern's on the inside. Has it slowed him down? I think it's closed the gap just slightly, but there's still nothing that Sutherland Mountsie is going to be wanting to try and push as hard as he can to try and get away from David Fern over this next lap. David Fern, on the other hand, is going to see an opportunity here with back markers starting to come into play, and Sutherland Mountsie almost looking like he's getting his elbow down for his GP style, riding style that he has, and he's able to use his bike as he does the Doctor's Dangle going into the final corner as we come across the line. Just have 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go in this race with David Ferns still closely behind, 4 tenths away now. He was 1 tenth slower that time round, even though Sutherland Mountsie hit traffic, which just shows how hard Sutherland Mountsie is pushing in this race, with Rossi Bannerman still in 3rd place, but 10 seconds behind, so he's definitely not going to come into play, and 3rd place looks to be the best he's going to achieve in this race. Stephen Brooks is still behind Rossi Bannerman, just 3 tenths off, as we just start the last lap of this race. Adam Redden, who we've not talked about that much this race, is having a good ride, a consistent ride, as we head on to the final lap of this race. Sutherland Mountsie still leads by 4 tenths of a second by having a 42.7 last time round, which is the exact same as David Fern. There's absolutely nothing there as Stephen Brooks is past Rossi Bannerman. Wow, this is what we need to see in the final lap of the race. Sutherland Mountsie comes round, not too long left, back marker in front of them. Rossi Bannerman's going to be wanting to try and get his podium position as well, but David Ferns also wants this win, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Sutherland Mountsie rounds the final corner and wins the race. The checker flag is out, and first win this season in the first race this season. Who would have thought it going into this race? We're waiting to see who's going to get 3rd place. So it'll be Stephen Brooks or Rossi Bannerman, and we wait to see who comes across the line first, and it's Stephen Brooks. Rossi Bannerman will want to up that tomorrow to get onto the podium as we wait for the rest of the bikes to come round. As we see Sutherland Mountsie on his in lap, absolutely delighted with that. He's absolutely had a little trying to wheel it there from Sutherland Mountsie. He is happy with that. As we see already just slowing down. As you see Sutherland Mountsie wins by 3 tenths of a second, the number 34 bike from David Fern, just 3 tenths away, with Stephen Brooks getting 3rd, Rossi Bannerman 4th, Jack Andrews 5th, Noah Gulera 6th, Dan Beron 7th, Adam Redden 8th, Jan Guella 9th, Casey O'Gorman sadly got a DNF, and Ben Ridwell also with a DNF that race. I think it's Guillory Lewis, but again, you know,
thanks for that. It's your debut. I'll let you off. I know you've been doing a fantastic job. You've been doing a fantastic job all day so far, and yeah, I think you know, you've been doing a really, really good job on the commentary booth. You know, it's been matched by the fantastic performance that we've been seeing there out on the track by all of the riders, and now it's time for some drivers out on track as well, because it's time for what could maybe be a last race of the day. We're not quite sure what's going to happen after this one, but it is time for the mini F1 sidecars. And well, you would have seen these in qualifying going around on our broadcast earlier, and again, well, let me tell you for a starter that Mick Williams will win, because he won every race last season. I'm pretty certain he won every race this season before that one as well. So Mick Williams is going to win. There'll be some argy-bargy, and then, you know, it will just be it's definitely a more chill race, I think. Obviously, it's a much more technical aspect of motorcycle racing as sidecar racing. You know, obviously, you know, for starters, you've got 2 people on the sidecar. You know, you've got one person doing the driving, the other person kind of hanging off the bike for dear life. But it's a much more kind of technical side of the sport, and it's a lot more chill as well, shall we say. Also, there's no warm-up lap for the sidecars, so they'll be coming out onto the grid. and then it'll be straight in. So on pole position, as you'd expect. Who else? It's Mick Williams in the number 26 machine, followed by the Green Streets in the number 90. Then it's Mark Parker, following them, then Vince Bailey, then Iola Glover and Elliot Newton, rounding out the grid in 5th place again. Unfortunately, the mini F1 sidecars is just one of those grids at FAB-Racing that just fluctuates. It just grows and diminishes with each round. You know what? 5 is not even that bad. Bit of smoke actually coming out the back, I believe. That was out of the back of others, or maybe Vince Bailey. It'll be fine. I'm sure it is absolutely fine as we head down to the back end. So of course, important to remind you, no warm-up lap here, so we'll be straight out. And of course, the races in sidecars a little bit shorter as well, but it's because they're a bit slower. That's no fault of their own. It's just sidecars are typically slower than bikes because not as agile. Take a bit more time to kind of get around corners. There's 2 people on the bike, a bit heavier, etc., etc. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Is Mick Williams going to shoot off into the distance again? Why is the answer yes? Well, maybe you won't. Maybe the Green Streets. Maybe today's their day. Place some bets, of course, if you're watching along. Don't forget to keep interacting on social media with FAB-Racing and Motorsport Media. Keep sharing the stream. Keep liking the streams. Be on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever you're watching along. I'm not even sure if we're streaming on Instagram. Probably not. But it's a pleasure to have you along, and it's been a great opening day to the 2022 FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships. And possibly rounding off, we're not quite sure if it's going to end the day or not with the Mini F1 sidecars. It's going to be, it'll be a good race in the terms of it'll be nice and chill for us. No warm-up lap, of course. Red lights on. Red lights off. We're underway in the Green Street as per. Great start, but there goes Mick Williams. You won't be seeing him for the rest of the race. He is off, but once again the Green Streets with a lightning start from second on the grid, holding on to their position. And give that Vince Bailey giving them a bit of a hard time in P3 as well as they come through the second chicane section. The Green Streets again from last season holding on to their form of great starts. They've just always had really good launches, and those 4 at the back of the pack. I say those 4 in the pack because Mick Williams is in the pack, as we see there. Oh no, I think that was Vince Bailey trying to make a move and then falling away, but we see there, these guys out there, they're still giving it a good fight on this first lap.
Yeah, they certainly are, and there's already a massive gap pulled by Mick Williams here in this race. But there's a scrap for the last place at the moment, as we see Mick Williams cross line with a 50-second lap from a standing start. That is incredible, with everyone else doing 55s, 56. It just proves the class that Mick Williams really is in these small sidecars that are custom built, and they're amazing to really watch because it's certainly different to watch from mini motos, and it takes a complete new skill. And as I said earlier in qualifying, it's 2 minds in 1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, if you're new to Fab, and Lewis, again, I'll remind you of this one as well. Mick Williams, if he's not about half a lap ahead of everyone else at the end of the first lap, then he's got some sort of problem with the bike. The bike is the best in the field, as he gets a bit of a slide in there. And Mick Williams, he's the best driver on the field as well. And as you can see, he's already pulled an absolutely mammoth gap, as you'd expect, because that's what Mick Williams does. He just vanishes into the distance. Starting off this season, as you'd expect. Again, if you're new to Fab, Mick Williams, that number 26 machine, they have dominated British mini sidecar racing for years, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon either. But still got some action further down the pack as well. And of course, I'm not saying him donating is a bad thing. Of course, it's great to see him so successful, and he's still enjoying his success. And we see swapping places. That was Vince Bailey and Mark Parker, I believe, and apparently we've got Chris Impey out on the circuit as well now. Apparently, that was I believe Mark Parker getting a little bit off the circuit. Well, our timing screen's just updated to have Chris Impey out there, but I don't remember seeing Chris Impey at all today. So who knows what's going on? Maybe he's just decided to rock up late and join in. But yeah, there you go. Mini F1 sidecars, everyone.
Yeah, it's certainly great to watch. Mick Williams, they're just comfortable with the bike moving around under brake and then going into the corners, just comfortable moving about. They're not scared of the bike. They are in complete control of the bike, and they're working as one, and they work great. As we see a different type of riding style there from one of the sidecars by using their knee while going around the corners. Well, most sidecar passengers have a knee slider on their bottom and scrape that rather than using their conventional knee.
Again, it's a very very unique form of motorsport. I think I'll say that again. I mean, you've probably seen them at the TT and whatever and stuff like that, but you know, they often go underappreciated, I think, on the circuit. Even more so mini sidecars, which is, you know, the niche of a niche, so to speak. And well, you know, it is good fun. You know, of course, all of these guys, you know, it's custom built motors, it's custom built sidecars. You know, these are all just very much homemade. As we will be heading on to the last lap in a few short moments' time. And you know, again, there is that Mick? That is Mick Williams, I believe. Yes, it is Mick Williams heading round the back end of the circuit. And well, absolutely flying. I mean, that side, it's so planted. You know, you look at, he drifts through the slow corners because that's just kind of what, but it's through the fast stuff. The bike it's so planted every single time. I mean, even, you know, he's drifted through there earlier today, but again, just look how stable the sidecar is through there. Last lap of the race, the yellow flag with the black cross indicates one more turn to go. And I mean, I don't even really need to say anything else, do I? I mean, Mick Williams, once again, he's just disappeared off into the distance.
Yeah, he's certainly disappeared off into the distance away from everyone else with a 14-second gap to second place. But Mick Williams seems to just slowed down a little bit just to make it to the end of the race safely without any mistake by setting a 50-second round, but by setting this 50-second lap time last time round. But that was still 2 seconds faster than Jason Greenstreet in second, which just proves how on another level these riders are.
Absolutely. I mean, the bike is brilliant, the rider is brilliant, or the driver even is brilliant, the sidecar is brilliant. Right in the final corner, who else? Mick Williams brings home the first race of the season with another Mick Williams performance. Absolutely fantastic stuff from that number 26 machine. The Green Streets look like they're going to bring it home in second as the Marshall on the flag waits for the next bike. There it goes. There go the Green Streets on the 90 coming home in P2. Another great start from them. And well, there you go. Mick Williams, I mean, just brilliant. I mean, again, there's not really much else to say, is there? I mean, he did it last season, he did it the season before that, and before that, and before that. He just kind of disappears into the distance.
Yeah, he certainly does. The only way to describe it is Mick Williams is in a different postcode to all these other riders here this weekend, and here every single weekend. It is amazing to watch them race. They're on a different level from everyone else, and it's just great to see someone have so much success.
Indeed, it is. As well, it heads into the pits, and well, the rest of them all finish. So it's the Williams and the number 26 machine that, of course, wins as always. It's kind of the status quo at this point. The Green Street's coming home in P2, and Vince Bailey in the 369 machine comes running home in P3. Then it's Mark Parker in P4, Chris Impey in P5, and Iona Glover and Elliot Newton, new to the Mini F1 sidecar grid this year, coming home in P6. And well, we've got a surprise, not just for us, but just for you as well. We've got one more race to look forward to, and it's the big one. We've got the LS2 helmets, Mini GP70 British Championship. That was so in sync. I'm very proud of myself there. But yeah, there we go. It is time for the LS2 helmets, Mini GP70 Championship. This is the big one. This is the premier class of FAB-Racing. And of course, last year, it went down to a 3-race shootout in the final race of the season. No, and it's going to get even more crazy this year.
Yeah, it certainly is. Ethan Sparks running, well, not running away with the championship, battling right to the end for this championship, and he's back out in the class this year to try to do the exact same thing again. But we have some great riders this season with Joshua Williams and Ruben Bray, rookies to the Mini GP70s, but we'll be hoping to make a big everlasting impact on this class.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's Ethan Sparks, of course, coming to defend this championship. He's not actually old enough to go into the British Talent Cup yet, so he's come back to have another pop at his crown, and of course, he's most likely to be favourite to win it twice on the twat. However, yeah, of course, Sparks winning that championship in that final race as well was a very, very controversial final round. So it's going to be, and apparently as well, we're going to get the Moto teams after that as well. So we are going to have all the race ones. So surprise, we're getting 2 more races than we anticipated. But yeah, it's the Ethan Sparks taking in a very controversial final round in which he was sent off the road, whether it was a racing incident, whether it was an incident worthy of a penalty, who knows. But himself and his main rival Mason Foster coming together in race 1 at Clandau, and well, hopefully let's see what happen. Well, that would be that really. We've got a few riders making their way into the into the 70th season. You've got Marco Holt, you would have seen him out in the 50s earlier. He's also up in the 70s. You've got Harry Payne, who's made his way up. Josh Williams, you said Ronnie Harris also up there. Henry McCartney. You've got a few very strong riders out there. So it's looking like a very strong grid. So we're going to have to see how it is. There is Marco on his actual bike this time. So that's the normal Marco Holt look. So it's sure to be a great championship, and of course it's the Premier class. It's the first race of the season. It's going to kick off.
Yeah, this is a race that everyone's been looking forward to all weekend. It's the Mini GP70s. They are amazing to watch. They're capable of up to 100 miles per hour, which on these circuits, on these smaller karting circuits, is crazily fast for these younger riders. And these are the champions of the future with the talents of the future on it, and their hopes for future Grand Prix stars.
Exactly. This is the gateway into the British Talent Cup. This specific championship in FAB-Racing is where you want to be if you want to be coming into the British Talent Cup and looking beyond into a motorcycle racing career into the future. And we're all getting ready to get going on our formation lap, and Ethan Sparks on that white 62 on the inside, going from pole position, the reigning champion, getting ready to lead them away. And away they go on their formation lap. It's Ethan Sparks who leads them away from the pole position, and it will be Henry McCartney alongside him in P2. Ronnie Harris on the number 66 starts in P3 with Joshua Williams in P4. Marco Holt starts in P5 on that number 58 machine with Luke Fitchett in P6. Then it's Samuel Munson and Harry Payne on the fourth row of the grid. Blake Wilson and Ollie Sims round out the top 10 with Ruben Gray, Noah Guillory and Hayden Whiteman rounding out the grid. A nice and strong grid of riders today as we are getting ready for what should be a fantastic race to watch. I mean, Lewis, what's your expectations coming into this one?
My expectations will be an extremely close race, as we've had in the past, with some great stars, with Ethan Sparks looking to defend his title once again. As we wait for all the riders to line up on the grid, it should be a cracking race for everyone to watch at home. Marco Holt there with the easily known minion helmet, easy to recognise on the grid.
It's a very nice helmet, and of course Ethan Sparks looking to become the first ever back-to-back champion in FAB-Racing history in the 70s championship. All waiting. Marshall getting ready, points the light, here we go, it's the Metrokit Mini GP70s, and the red lights are on. And they're off, it's race one and we're underway, and kind of a wheelie from Ethan Sparks there, but he manages to maintain the lead as he comes away, and it's Sparks from McCartney from Harris as they call away. Marco Holt manages to climb to P4 as well. Ethan Sparks, that could have been disastrous there, manages to hold on. It's a great start as we get motoring. You can see how much faster these things are than anything else that we've seen today. Look at the pace that they are about to bring around the back of this circuit. If you're new to FAB-Racing, hello and welcome. This is what it's all about.
It really is. This is fast racing, this is close racing, this is exactly what you want to see from these FAB-Racing championships. As we watch them go down the back straight, you can just see the speed of them, but the camera does not do it justice as we head round to start the second lap of the race. Turn one, watching these bikes go around turn one is amazing to watch. You can just see how fast it is, but yet again the camera just doesn't do it justice. You have to be here, standing trackside, to be able to see how much confidence these kids have in these motorcycles.
I mean, as we said before the race, these are the stars tomorrow. This is the entry into the British Talent Cup right here, and Ethan Sparks leading the way. Ronnie Harris though in P2 with the fastest lap of the race so far. He'll be looking to close that gap on the 66 bike, and we're waiting to see how it's all going to kick off. And I've just been told in my ear that there might be an investigation by Racecoin to jump starts. So that's something to consider from the start. Marco Holt losing places there. He's dropped up to P5. Samuel Munson gaining as well. Luke Fitchett with the fastest lap of the race at 42.287 as they head off on their next lap. And Sparks just maintaining that lead at the moment. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. No more, no less. He's just maintaining. He's a smart racer. He's a champion. He knows what he needs to do to win this championship. He knows what he needs to do to dominate in this series. So he's just doing exactly that. You're just out the front, not pushing too hard, just keeping to himself, keeping the bike intact to make Drew starts off his season with a race win.
Yeah, certainly. Ethan Sparks will be thinking, I've done it once, I can do it again. The confidence he'll be having coming into this first round will be like absolutely no other. As we see Ronnie Harris in second place, setting the fastest lap of the race with 42 dead. 2/10 faster than Ethan Sparks that last lap. But Ethan Sparks still got a comfortable lead that he doesn't have to be too worried and start pushing, which could potentially lead to a mistake from him.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's pretty fast for this early in the race as well. Marco Holt looking for Samuel Munson, looking for moves as they come down the back end of the circuit. And well, as they head round there, we can see just riders following each other in such a synchronised fashion. Again, this is the best of the juniors and FAB. This is, where, the riders of tomorrow, where the stars of tomorrow are. And, this is where they really earn their stripes. Obviously getting onto the Mini GP 50s, learning the trade of a Grand Prix bike. Now this is about, proving your worth as a rider. It's about proving that you've got what it takes to get out there, have a career in the top level of motorcycle racing. And Ethan Sparks, your reigning champion, doing exactly that. He's here because he's not old enough to be in the British Talent Cup at the moment. He doesn't. He won the championship and he wasn't allowed to move on. So he's back again and looking to do the double. Yeah, and there's certainly a chance he can do the double, but Ethan Sparks, of course, is a part of the MLAV Academy, hosted by Michael Laverty, which gave a platform for these riders to hopefully make it into the Grand Prix stage, with currently having a team in Moto 3, with Scott Ogden, a previous rider of the FAB-Racing Championship, which just shows the talent that can come from here, and that Ethan Sparks could potentially be the next Scott Ogden. Well, potentially. I mean, many of these riders could be following in the footsteps of Scott Ogden, of Scott Redding, of many others, as they make their way up to the world of MotoGP, or maybe World Superbikes, maybe Bennett's British Superbike Championship. Of course, FAB-Racing is the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship, and is, of course, also part of the Dorna Road to MotoGP Talent Promotion Program. But, well, these riders, as I said, these guys are going to be the stars of tomorrow. And Ethan Sparks, he's looking to make history and be the first back-to-back Mini GP FAB-Racing champion, the first two-time champion as well. To do it back-to-back, even more impressive. But again, it's also the first race of the season. We might be getting a bit ahead of ourselves by declaring him champion just for the time being. We'll just have to wait and see how it unfolds. There is Marco Holt looking at McCartney, not quite going for McCartney, but he's letting McCartney know he's there. He's the vice champion of the Mini GP 50s championship last season. And well, as he's just going round trying to find a way through that number 31 machine, it's just at the moment all action stations. There will be 5 laps to go this time by as they round the final corner. It's Sparks from Ronnie Harris, whose early pace still maintaining, and well, McCartney and Holt, and these top 4, I don't know about you, Lewis, but to me it seems that they're getting closer. Yeah, they certainly do. It seems that they've bridged the gap a lot in this past couple of laps, and Ethan Sparks being 2/10 slower than second, third, and Marco Holt with another 3/10 on the rest of them. Marco Holt showed amazing pace this race with the best lap time of a 41.7, which is less than half a second off the lap record. And we see even Sparks are down. Again, we saw that in qualifying. Throttle stuck open, he gets back on the same place in qualifying. Ethan Sparks goes down. It's identical to the incident in the second qualifying session. Too fast to the left-hander, rear end of the bike steps out, and down he goes. And he's done that twice now. Unbelievable as well, going down. That's the 78 of Josh Williams who's gone down. But Ethan Sparks, disaster, and that's the second time he's done it today. Ronnie Harris is now leading this race by just 3/10 of a second. This race is absolutely anyone's guess now, with Ethan Sparks all the way down in 8th position now, so the win is definitely out of the equation for him. Oh, what a shame there for Ethan Sparks. I mean, you can't help but feel for him, but at the same time, I think you've done exactly the same thing earlier, Ethan. You're the champion already. From last season, you shouldn't be making errors like this. I can't help but feel frustrated, but I'm sure he'll be learning from that one, especially going into tomorrow. And of course, starting from the pole position again tomorrow, and on for race 3 as well. Of course, the qualifying, where you qualify is where you stop all 3 races here in FAB, so not absolute disaster for Sparks. It may seem it in this race, it may not be the start of the championship that he wanted, but there is still opportunity for him to improve into the future. But as you said, Ronnie Harris seeing this race, and well, he was looking fast all weekend long so far anyway. And now that he's got this lead, trying to hold off McCartney, trying to hold off Holt, who, I think could be a bit of a dark horse as we go into the penultimate lap of the opening round of the LS2 Helmets Mini GP70 British Championship race here. The opening round of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship here at the Lydd Kart Circuit in Kent. And it's the penultimate lap of the penultimate race of the day. And, it's very, very tight. I mean, look how close those top three are. Very, very wide there from McCartney on the exit of the corner. That's going to cost him coming down here. And that might open the door for Marco Holt to have a dive into the final corner.
Yeah, it might potentially open up a gap for him just to dive up the inside, but there's nothing between them. Marco Holt, Henry McCartney and Ronnie Harris all realise they can win this race with Ethan Sparks no longer being in the equation, which is obviously which is obviously the champion of last season. Henry McCartney looking around the outside into turn one there. It's quite a strange way to look for a pass as we watch them just come round to the back, come round to the sweeping right-hander before the back straight, and it should be a fantastic finish for Ronnie Harris if he can just keep this pace momentum upwards. Just a 1/10 of a second gap. He's going to want to keep the pace up, keep McCartney behind and keep Holt behind to claim the first victory of the season. As we have one more turn left, Harris goes round, Harris goes up the inside, Harris is leading the race, Harris comes round to the final straight, Harris takes the checker flag to win the race, setting the fastest lap of the race with a 41.6. That is so close to the lap record around the circuit, just 3/10 off the lap record. It just shows the absolute pace that all these riders were putting into that last lap, with the top two both being in the 41.6s.
Indeed, great stuff there from Ronnie Harris. And again, to only be 3/10 off the lap record when the track's still got plenty of evolutions going through tomorrow. The track's probably cooling off as well. It's not that warm anyway. Yeah, great pace there from Ronnie Harris. Takes a fantastic win. There he is, Ronnie Harris, taking the victory by just under 2/10 of a second from Henry McCartney in P2. Marco Holt celebrating he crossed the line there. A great finish in P3 for him, with Luke Fitchett in P4. Samuel Munson was 5th, Harry Payne was 6th, and Blake Wilson was 7th. Ethan Sparks, you've got to feel for him, but a small mistake with big consequences, down in 8th place after leading. Then it's Ruben Bray and Ollie Sims rounding up the top 10, and then Noah Guillory and Joshua Williams just aside from 12th, with Hayden Whiteman unfortunately not finishing this event. And there we go. Well, Lewis, looks like we've got time for one more race as well. It's time for the Moto team, and again, this one's a weird one.
Yeah, it certainly is. We have two classes. We have the open class and we have the standard class. But surprisingly in qualifying, both classes were mixing with each other, and it wasn't just one class that was better than the other. This class is quite confusing to watch because the bike on the timing screen and on the side of your screen, the names on it is the owner of the motorcycle, not the person riding it, so it can be a complete different rider.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you see there on number 1, for example, that's Jamie King. Of course, that bike on the championship last year, but he was barely on it. He often allows other riders, subscribers to his Pit Bike Sonic YouTube channel, which he runs to ride. If they win a competition, they can enter a competition on his YouTube channel, and they can win a weekend on a fab bike. He is sharing a bike with someone else this weekend, who it is unfortunately escapes me at the moment. But the deal was whoever was faster. Jamie was in qualifying 2, the other riders in qualifying 1. Whoever was faster got to ride the bike in race 1. Clearly it's Jay King. And it's nice to be seeing that we are going to get the Moto team guys in as well. Of course, according to our schedule, we were supposed to finish, if I check the time, about half an hour ago. So, that's that at least. Or were we? No, we weren't. We're actually well ahead of schedule, which is why we haven't finished yet. There we go. Turns out we've actually massively shot ahead, so that's why we managed to squeeze these last 2 in. Of course, stay tuned after this race. It may be the last race, but it's not the end of the day. We do have Brad Ray and Tom Watson, BSB riders, demoing their Supermoto bikes for you, and we will have that for you, of course, live here on the FAB-Racing YouTube channel and Motorsport Radio YouTube channel and other social medias where we are broadcasting as well. But time for the last race of the day, time for the Moto team. It is the bike of Darren Anderson that starts on the pole, with the bike of Warren Guantaro starts alongside him in P2. And again, important, there's 2 different classes. So you've got the open class, which is essentially whatever you want, and then you've got the probably more GP style bikes. You can see that they're all in the open class, and then you've got the street stock class, the 125 street stock class. They look more like pit bikes. It's pretty much that. I believe we will be having a formation lap because I've not heard otherwise from race control. So we're just all waiting really, and unless the lights come on, and I'll tell you if they do. But we'll get to it. So yeah, if we're going racing, then the marshal on the grid will point up to the lights. So Lee Clow's there on the grid. She'll point up to the lights. If that happens, that means we're going racing. Otherwise, we've got a formation lap. The 96 there of Will Howarth getting a bit smoky. He made a feature in the final Moto team race of last season, and actually he did put in a decent display. I'll give it that to Will Howarth. Again, it's a bit of a jump from a mini Moto onto a GP style bike, and he still did very, very well for himself to have given that. Let's see, are we going to go on a formation lap? Let's find out. Haven't heard otherwise, so I'll assume we are. No, we're not. So we're going. No, yeah, we are. Okay, that's a lie. I thought that was a point. That was a way. So we're going out on the formation lap. Let's go through the grid, shall we? The bike of Darren Anderson starts from the pole position. Warren Guantaro goes across from alongside him. Then it's the 96 of Will Howarth in P3 with Keith Bolton in P4. Ian Jackson is in P5 and the 27 with Jay King on that number 1, the champion's number, in P6. Then it's Jack Andrews on the 14 in P7. Phil Mufflebeck on the 19 in P8. It's the 333 of Scott Jewett in P11, I believe that is. Then Linton DeMiola is in P12 in the 4-1. Then Philip Joyce, Ryan Busson, Vince Bailey, Charlie Ems and Elliot Newton rounding out the grid. But of course, those are the names of the people who own the bikes, might not necessarily be the people on the bikes. So do bear that in mind. It's a bit confusing, but again, a nice little championship. There's 2 classes in one. Last season, there wasn't really a lot of entries last season. It got to the point where they actually threw some of these guys on with the Extreme 200. So you have the Extreme 200s going around, then at the back you have the Moto team bikes going around, and then you'd have the split between the opens and the standards as well. And this track, it seems to be pretty even between those two, and it's lovely to see a nice and healthy grid as well. And as well, we've also got Ian Baker, Madison Martley and Iona Glover who've just popped up my live timing. So we've got even more riders on the grid, which is great to see. So, a very, very packed grid of, lots of different types of bikes as you get here in the Moto team class. And of course, the final race of the day as we wait for the red lights. Lights on. Lights off, and we're underway for the final race of the day. It's a great start from Guantaro, but who's that sliding up the inside? I think it may have been Ian Jackson, maybe, who got away really, really well and took the lead. I can't quite tell. No, it's not. Maybe I can't actually quite tell who that is. I can't read the number. But as we get on the way, leading the way is that red bike, and coming around there goes Will Howarth, having a look to the inside, unable to quite make the move. It's apparently Darren Anderson who's now in the lead. So maybe a transponder problem there for Darren Anderson, but Darren Anderson looks like he's in the lead of the race at the moment, so who really knows what's going on, but it's Darren Anderson from Will Howarth in P2.
Yeah, it seems that it is. Although this is the last race of the day, it seems that it's going to be as much action as we've had all day. Of course, yeah, it seems to be Darren Anderson on the 133 bike, just having a slight transponder issue, as Will Howarth sets the fastest lap on that first lap of a 48.332. Oh! Darren Anderson goes down.
So Darren Anderson wasn't in the lead of the race on the timing screen. He's not in the lead of the race on the racetrack anymore either. Goes down, coming into the chicane. Back end stepped out, as we've been seeing so often, and that bike doesn't look to be in the best state, and he's not too happy with it either. Wheeling it off, that looks to be his day done, as Will Howarth takes the lead of the race. Oh, Darren Anderson, we've been seeing a lot of that today. A lot of riders. I'm not sure if it's just a cold track surface, but a lot of riders just rear end stepping out, coming into corners and going down. And we've been seeing that. We've been seeing it in pit bikes. We've been seeing it in this. We've been seeing it in the mini GP classes. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but it seems to be a bit of an epidemic here.
Yeah, it certainly does. It also seems like it's few front end moments coming in with these bikes, just so that potentially as well with the winds that we have here today. Although it looks great on the broadcast cameras, here at the circuit, the wind still is a factor to consider with these bikes.
Yeah, it is very, very windy. It's also pretty chilly out there as the sun gets low in the evening. The track's only getting colder as well. It's, I think it was a maximum of about 9 degrees today. Really wasn't that warm. I mean, warmer than yesterday, don't get me wrong, but it's, not the most ideal conditions of racing, despite the fact that it does look very nice out on the broadcast there. We see some of the open bikes giving it a go. It's well, currently it's Howarth from Guantaro. Howarth in the open. Guantaro's in the standard, despite the fact that the GP style bikes currently dominating. They're actually, a lot of them are all in different classes, so I'm not sure if they actually give medals for like overall winners. I'm not actually too sure. I need to double check on that one. They may very well give overall medals and then medals for each of the classes. I'm not entirely sure. So Howarth could be on for 2 gold medals right now. Who really knows? But it is Howarth from Guantaro from Keith Bolton and that number 8 machine in P3. Yeah, it seems to very much be that the GP style bikes are dominating right now.
Yeah, it does, but first and second place, not to be mistaken, is 2 different classes. First place is the open class, which is a lot more free. You can do what you want. You can use 50cc engines. The standard class is a lot more to the road bike. You cannot make as much modifications to the engine, etc. And it produces close racing still, even though it's 2 classes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these 2 classes, they seem to be very, very close here at Lydd. It's something I'm not very used to. And there we see, side by side, chopping through. I'm not sure if that was a back marker that people have to fight their way around. But yeah, chopping their way through. That was very, very close indeed. They're all making their way through in some way, shape or form. It's whatever works, I suppose, but it's a bit of a gut-wrenching moment for me here in the commentary box. Anyway, I thought they were going to come together. It looked very, very close. 8 laps to go here in the Moto team, and 8 laps to go here on the Saturday for the first round of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship. Of course, returning for the 2022 season here at the Lydd kart circuit in the southeast of England and Kent, right on the coastline as well. So it's very, very humid, lots of that cool sea air blowing over the track. So yeah, it's interesting weather, we'll say that much. See, that's Will Howarth keeping Ontario at bay down the back end of the circuit. And well, it seems at the moment really these 2 guys are very happy just to kind of bring their bikes home as they are. Maybe just bring them into the last few laps, just keep at it. No need to push each other, make mistakes, cause accidents. Let's just get into the last few laps and kind of just have a good time.
Yeah, they certainly are. As we come across the line and we just get to see the latest lap times, Will Howarth was 2/10 faster than Warren that time round. And Will Howarth, of course, being on the distinctly coloured motorcycle that is a pearlescently brown bronze colour that is very easy to point out on track. Will Howarth having the fastest lap of the race. With 46 dead. Will Howarth, of course, leading the Moto Open class, with the second Moto Open class being Keith Bolton in 3rd place, and then you have to go down to 6th place with Linton. While on the other hand, the Moto team standard class, Warren leads that with Jamie King in 4th and 2nd place in that class, closely followed by Ian Jackson, who's 5th overall and 3rd in the standard class.
Exactly, but I think Jamie King as well might have just overtaken Keith Bolton potentially. I think that might have been, maybe, no it wasn't, I'm not sure. Yeah it was. So Jamie King overtakes Keith Bolton in 3rd overall, but they still maintain their positions in their classes. So just to run through that again, Will Howarth is leading Moto Team Open, Keith Bolton in 2nd, and Linton Viola is 3rd. But then it's Warren Guantaro, Jamie King, and Ian Jackson, your top 3 in Moto Team Standard. But then overall it's now Will Howarth, Warren Guantaro, and Jamie King. Trying not to get too confused. There's only 2 more races of this tomorrow anyway. But yeah, it's a fun little class. It is a bit mathematical to wrap your head around. There's a lot going on in terms of who's where, who's on what, who's doing what. But it is a nice class, and again, it's another championship which sees the older riders get involved. And you do often, because it's about the bike and it's about the team. It's called Moto Team for a reason. It's why guys like Jamie King are more than happy to lend their bike out to mini moto riders, pit bar riders, riders who wouldn't normally be seen on these types of bikes. And it creates very interesting racing, because you get these guys well outside of their comfort zone, doing something they're not used to be doing, on a bike that's very, very capable. And having to be like, yeah, by the way, I'm challenging for the championship and I'd quite like to be that at the end of this weekend. So can you not destroy my bike? Can you maybe get some good results? Have a good time while you're at it?
Yeah, as as you said, it's great to see the older riders getting involved in this championship, because not only can they make it into a family weekend, you know, the kids can race, the adults can race, but they can also pass on their advice and their experience on to the younger competitors and the rookies of this championship. As we see Warren in second place getting the fastest lap of the race with 45.8. As we see someone off, 2 people off in fact. Wait and see who that is.
Can't quite make out who that is, unfortunately. I believe is the 131 or 231 even of Charlie Ems that's gone down, and yeah, someone else off. That's the 23 of Elliot Newton. So Ems and Newton, 2 of our sidecar enthusiasts that we have on the sidecar grid, also finding trouble in the Moto team. 3 laps to go here in the final race of today. And of course, don't go anywhere after this one. We've got some demo runs with BSB rider Brad Ray on his Supermoto, and then of course tomorrow we'll be back in the same places a little bit earlier as well. We've got your race 2s and 3s to look forward to. So of course, plenty more Fab action to be bringing you across the weekend, but it is still Will Howard who is leading this way with 2 laps to go. Guantaro is still maintaining that close gap, and now maybe he's thinking, okay, let's not bring it to the end now, let's have a bit of a race on our hands. Yes, I'm leading my class, I can smell an overall victory here.
Yeah, I definitely think Guantario has just sat there just to see where he's faster than Howarth, and he's played it so smart, and now his final lap he's going to pull the pin and try to make a pass on where he knows he's faster. We just have to watch his body language to see where he's wanting to make this move and how he positions himself onto the track. As you see them go around the quick chicane, power out of there, then to a fast flowing right-hander with Will Howard passing the back marker, not getting in the way too much. Will is getting away in Guantario, no it doesn't, but the gap has certainly widened.
The gap's too big.
Yeah, I do not think Guantario can catch up unless if something happens to Will Howard. But we are on the final lap of the race as we wait for Will Howard to go around the final turn of this race. The checker flag is waving, and Will Howarth wins the race with Guantario just behind. Will Howarth also sets the fastest lap of the race with a 45.6.
And well, great end there for Will Howarth. Of course, if you're a Guantaro fan, don't be disappointed, because he still takes the victory in the Moto team standard class. JB King will come home on that number 1 bike to take the Moto team standard P2, P3 overall as well. So there we have it, the final race of the day. Will Howarth takes the victory, takes the overall victory as well. Guantaro second, King third. There's Bolton, Jackson, Mapak, Dimiola, Joyce, Stewart and Button, your top 10. And of course, Will Howarth, your Moto team top kind of 5. It's Will Howarth, Keith Bolton even, Lindsay Dimiola, Philip Joyce, and then you have to go to Elliot Newton, who actually are outside the top 10 for your top 5. Oh no, I missed out Phil Mapak, I do apologise. It's Howarth from Bolton, from Mapak, from Dimiola, from Joyce is your top 5. And then in Moto team standard, it's Guantaro, Jay King, Ian Jackson, and then it's Scott Jewett and Ryan Button is your top. So it's a 5-5 split in the top 10. So, you know, nice way to end the race, and good to see them as well, actually so close, because normally you do kind of get the domination of the standard class. So it's good to see the open guys not only getting an overall win, but, you know, being, you know, pretty well in there with the standard guys. Yeah, it does. I mean, it really just shows how close the classes are now. There's no balance, there's no ill balance between the classes, and although Warren Guantario didn't win the overall race, he still won his class, so you can still walk away from today with somewhat of a win from winning the standard class. Exactly, and well, as we get a few bikes trying to get home at the end there, that brings an end to today's racing here at FAB. The first day even of the championship, the 2022 championship. Of course, we don't go anywhere, because we'll be back tomorrow. Of course, don't go anywhere, because we've got some demo coming up on some Supermoto bikes from some BSB riders. We will be staying on air, so do just stick with us as we get ready to the demo. But Lewis, well, that brings a conclusion to well, the first day of the championship here at FAB. Your first day of FAB as well. You know, how do you think it's gone? Yeah, it's gone great. I would say there's been great racing all day to keep us occupied. The highlight of the day has to be the GP50s. The
Extreme 200 class and the Pit Bike 140 class, and of course the Premier class, the LS2 Mini GP 70 British Championship.
I mean, yeah, obviously, every championship at FAB is phenomenal. Don't get us wrong, but has been some particular highlights there. Of course, not every race is the same. Sometimes you get races which, I won't say duller in their kind of nature, but maybe less goes on. It's a bit more calm, shall we say, as you get some riders getting some help from some marshals there. But that does bring an end to today's racing. But of course, it doesn't bring an end to today's track action, because we're going to stay on air, because we've got Brad Ray, BSB rider Brad Ray, going out and doing a demo on his Supermoto bike for your pleasure. So you can have a look at what a very, very fast bike out on a kart circuit looks like. I mean, of course, the Mini GP70s there, they're fast bikes. This is a very, very fast bike out on what is essentially it is a kart circuit, and it's a very narrow kart circuit at that. So that'll be a good fun to watch, I can guarantee. And of course, it's great to have Brad with us this weekend. He's been helping out around the paddock. He's been speaking to basically everyone who comes across him, giving some riders some tips and tricks on how to improve. And now it looks like he's going to be heading back out, or heading out even in just a short moment's time to give us all a showing of what a top level successful motorcycle racer can do on a kart circuit on a very fast bike. Yeah, Brad Ray, of course, been a very successful rider in his time. He was picked for the Red Bull Rookies Championship back in the day, is now of course in the British Superbikes for this 10th in championship last season, which is no bad result. It's such a tightly contested championship, and they just missed out on the showdown last year. Yeah, a big show. They just missed out on that, but of course he's new season. It's a new bike as well, if I'm not mistaken. Same team, new bike, I think, isn't it? They're on the BMWs now, I want to say. They're on the Yamahas this year. Sorry, my mistake. Yes, yeah. On the Yamahas this year. From the BMWs. Sorry, I got them mixed up. Yep. Yes, they're on the moving on to the same team, but moving on to the Yamaha bike this year as well. So that's very, very exciting, of course. So we're just waiting for Brad to make an appearance and head out onto the circuit. As a lovely and sunny day here at the Lydd kart circuit in the southeast of England, on the Kent coastline. If you just hopped over a few lakes there over the circuit, you could probably see France, to be honest. It's lovely and clear out there, and it's a very, very nice. I mean, this circuit is basically in France for you anyway. It's been a long journey down yesterday. I was acting out my journey was pretty bad, it being 2 hours, but yours was pretty nasty from Scotland. Yeah, it was certainly a long journey, but it's good to be here. It's been great weather all day, a bit cold. Certainly I've not really escaped the temperatures of Scotland, but it's been worth the journey. Oh, well, that's good to hear, and obviously glad you enjoyed yourself. And even if it wasn't worth the journey, you're still stuck with another day anyway, because of course we've got the race 2s and 3s to look forward to tomorrow from all of our championships, from the mini motos all the way up to the GP bikes, and we've all got that to look forward to. And from what I'm aware, it's due to be beautiful tomorrow. I mean, still not warm, but lovely clear skies. The wind's supposed to be lower as well, so we're just waiting for Brad to head out on his Supermoto, and we can have a look. There goes Jay King, who's walking out and discussing leaving the circuit with some other riders alongside him. And what are they doing? It seems to me like they might be doing a class photo, which was supposed to be after Brad Ray, but I'm not entirely sure, because they're definitely walking out onto the circuit with some bikes. So we'll stay tuned. We'll find out what's happening in a minute. We'd love to show you some Brad Ray action. Just to conclude what's been a fantastic opening day of the season. I'm sure we all love watching class photos, as exciting as it is, but we're kind of here for Brad Ray really at this point. So make sure you stay tuned with us, and of course thank you for joining us, myself and Lewis alongside me. It's been a pleasure having you with us for today across the Motorsport Radio and FAB-Racing social medias, and of course the Motorsport Radio channel as well. And it's been a real pleasure to be bringing you all of the action from FAB-Racing, and all of the non-stop action that's just been happening all day long. And from the qualifiers to the race ones, and it was great to be able to squeeze all the race ones in as well. We finished very, very early. It's 5:20 now. It was supposed to be the end at 5:30. Well, it seems like we're seems like we're going to call it quits here today. So thank you very much for joining us here for the opening day of the season here at FAB-Racing. And well, Lewis, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it certainly has. It's been great today, great race, and hopefully more of the same tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you very much for joining us today. You know, thank you very much for joining us to all of our championships, you know, from the mini bikes all the way up to the LS2 Helmets Mini GP 70 British Championship, of course, the premier class here at FAB-Racing. Now, it's of course, it's been absolutely brilliant, and we will be back tomorrow with even more action in race 2s and race 3s. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Let's go! The official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB-Racing. Yeah.